recommended deductions.
We did an actuarial analysis of how much it would cost to offer the essential benefit package and compare to the current contributions, which range between 5% for the lowest income earners to 1.12% for the population that is earning more than 100,000. And from our weighted matrix, the suggestion was that the equalizing effect was to offer at a rate of 2.75%. And that's how we arrived at this figure. This figure is expected to generate the revenues that would finance social health insurance to offer the essential benefit package that has been suggested by government.
On his part, Sema MP James Nyikal noted that the justification for the proposed deductions is acceptable as long as Kenyans get their money's worth.
Well, the justification, I think, is accepted. Me, not just the benchmarking, but more importantly, they have done an actual study which has indicated what they need to offer the essential package. To that extent, it's okay. As to whether people can afford it, whether it is high or low, what really is important here is how it is used. People pay so much in health, so that if they are paying that much, but they get as much full cover, then that is justified.
KMPDU Deputy Secretary General Dennis Miskela, however, questioned how the recently proposed NHIF tax deductions came to be since the union's members were allegedly not consulted during the process.
The question of NHIF is not about the amount of water in the basket, but rather the bucket is leaking severally, and you don't just fill it up and it will leak some more. It's about inefficiencies in the organization that if it was to be organized well, then we won't have to tax people more or deduct more, but rather just improving on what they already have. So as workers, we believe that deducting more will not solve the problem of the inefficiencies at NHIF.
72 secondary schools missed capitation because they did not acknowledge recipient of the previous disbursement. Speaking at the 46th Kenya Secondary Schools Heads Association Annual National Conference in Mombasa, Director of Secondary Schools in the Education Ministry, Paul Kibet, said principals should adhere to the laid-out guidelines for smooth running of schools. Kibet further said that by January this year, 3,000 secondary schools had not acknowledged recipient of the capitation funds for July last year, adding that this brought about the assumption that the schools were illegally extorting funds. This event comes as the government released 24 billion shillings in capitation 2 weeks ago. The battle between Siaya Deputy Governor William Oduol and County Assembly is far from over. Just a day after the Senate overturned a decision by the MCAs to impeach him, the Assembly has now taken the war to the High Court. The MCAs have now unanimously resolved that a constitutional petition be filed by the Assembly at the High Court in Siaya to find the DG and fit to hold public office. This followed the adoption of a notice of motion sponsored by the Ukwala MCA Peter Odor. The Assembly also petitioned AICC and the DCI to investigate and establish that Odor wasn't fit to hold office. The MCAs further asked the governor to stop assigning Odor any roles in the management of the affairs of Siaya County government until the suggested investigations are completed. Muslims in the country will today unite with others around the world to celebrate Eid-Ul-Adha. Eid-Ul-Adha, or the Day of Sacrifice, is the most important day in the Islamic religion after Eid-ul-Fitr. In Islamic ideologies, this day is used to remember the incident where Abraham wanted to sacrifice his son Ishmael before God gave him a sheep. Likewise, for some, this day is the end of the visit to Mecca, which is among the expectations of all Muslims at least once in their lives. This event comes as Interior CS Kithure Kindiki declared today a public holiday to pave way for the celebrations. And in the international scene, police in Italy have arrested more than 40 people believed to be part of the notorious Mafia on suspicion of corrupting local politicians, manipulating elections and rigging public tenders. The joint operation, which also involved police from Germany and Austria, centered on one clan within the Mafia, Italy's most powerful and richest mafia operating in Calabria. Police found that the group was able to manipulate local elections in Calabria, Europol said in a statement without giving further details. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Obaga.
Spice FM, Malindi.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Na hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning on this holiday. If you're coming on Mombasa Road, this is coming on the Southern Bypass overpass, you will find that traffic coming inbound on Mombasa Road has been diverted. So there's some work that's being done on that road. You will have to go round as though you were going to come in from Enterprise Road. Until that is sorted, the lower road is being worked on. Alternate routes must be sought. So also if you're coming inbound on Mombasa Road and this is coming in from South B, then you also have to use the diversion until further notice. There was a notice about that, so just reminding you that that work has begun as of this morning. Good thing it's a holiday, so you will not find too much traffic. A little bit of it here and there on Jogo Road, but nothing to worry about, at least not for now. Let's take a look later on as we kick off Wednesday. Talk to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter, and whatever the case, let's keep things moving today.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
28th day
This is the
June,
Situation Room, the only way to start.
It's a Muslim holiday. What's it called?
Eid-Ul-Adha.
Eid-Ul-Adha.
How many days is it?
Well, celebration. It depends on what country you're in.
Okay. So just tell us country by country and day by day.
That I know of.
Start with the longest to the shortest.
I think Saudi Arabia is 3 days. A couple of other countries. What is this?
You're
Not
playing
you.
Ethiopian music. Hey.
Things are doing their own thing.
What is that, Ednah?
Ednah, what's up? So you just tell
She's
us.
even putting up the fader
Can
so
you
that you can hear it.
She has brought more music.
What's that? One of Juba's great songs. Who's Juba? Ednah has some Muslim friends
who like this music,
and the Muslim friend loves this particular song, and now she's saying that Muslims love the song.
Your friend.
Just say,
just tell us.
just
we'll
say,
understand.
Ednah,
Because it cannot just be a random song that you just put like that and say.
What's the
told you they
name of
like
the
it?
friend, Ednah? And we can wish them happy Eid-Ul-Adha.
Yes.
So just tell us. We're here for you.
Muslims love this song.
No, we understand.
We understand.
that he and others. Yes.
No, it's us. We'll help you.
The best of Juba.
It's a nice song though.
Yeah, it's a nice beat. Well, I haven't heard the song. Wanaimbaje?
Sumesikia?
So Mr. Muslim brother, happy Eid-Ul-Adha from Ednah
and the gang.
Yes, enjoy that one. We'll send a special dedication of the song to you. Yes. Hiya. City, you well?
I'm very well.
Very good.
It's cold though, and I think you know the story.
Yes.
Taking the Mickey out of you.
But yes. In fact, it takes some Mickey out and brings other Mickeys.
Oh, yeah.
But it's good.
Keep warm, my brother. Keep warm.
You and your dawa, that is the medicine.
Unakaka, unakunywa kitu moto.
My Uber driver
unawasha moto ya makaa.
Told me and breathe in the fumes. Told me, mzee, unajua hiyo soup ndio inaweza saidia. Said no, but ni soup ya mfupa ya ngamia.
Bas. Huyo misdiagnosed. Ulisema nini?
Soup ya nini?
What did you say?
Ngamia.
What had you told him?
I told him, he asked me why I was walking slowly, and I told him my joints are a bit stiff as a result of this cold. Said no, mzee, hiyo si shida. Soup. Kwanza kupata soup ya ngamia.
What is soup ya ngamia?
Ngamia is camel.
Ngamia is camel.
Oh.
Camel bone soup.
Shida ni kwamba City hiyo camel bone soup kawaida yake wanaoisifia hawaisifii kwa kufanya hivyo.
Inaongeza battery.
Inaongeza battery. Inakupatia charge.
Ni charger.
Salute the flag. Right.
Sing the national anthem.
Hiyo ndio. Sasa yeye anakuambia ukunywe hiyo sasa anakuumiza bure bana yule jamaa.
I will have a word with him tomorrow. Ananionaje huyo?
Him, he had a different problem.
So he thought I was walking funny because what?
You know.
Ulisema uko na shida ya
kutembea.
Kuamka.
Oh, jamaa. I am going to have I was obviously going to have a stiff word with him, then I realized I can't say that. I'm going to have a word with him. Hey, right. Sawa.
Okay. Well, you keep warm, my brother.
Thank you.
That's the moral of the story.
Tembea with a kajiko.
That bag. I'm surprised you don't have
ongeza jiko kwenye bag.
Kwenye bag.
Na hot water bottle. How about you?
How about me?
You well?
I'm okay.
Very good. That's hiyo hamna shida.
How about you? Are you well?
I am well.
Very good.
Yes. What we'll be discussing today, Dr. Ekuru Aukot, the party leader of Third Way Alliance, will be here. You know, this gentleman, let me just tell you what he did. Ekuru Aukoti. On the 8th of August 2022, that's the day of the elections. No.
It was the day before the election.
The day before the elections. He said, tomorrow I'll cast my vote. You can be sure it will not be for a candidate being pushed by the current administration. It's an opportunity to turn a new chapter in the political history of our country. After almost 60 years of dominance by two families, their end comes tomorrow. So clearly he was saying who is not voting for.
Yeah.
And people then went and filled out for themselves who he was then saying he was going to vote for out of the other three candidates. Okay? Now, people have been telling him, So now these other your families, how are they doing? How are they doing? How's your vote now? And he still insists that actually this route of presidency is a blessing in disguise for Kenya's politics. It's changing Kenya's politics.
Okay.
He's coming at 8 to tell us how. And then at 9, yesterday, the Kenya Kwanza side of the bipartisan talks committee held a meeting and they addressed the media and they said, you Azimio people, come back to the talks table. And if you don't, in 7 days' time, if you don't come back, the IEBC selection panel should begin its work of picking new IEBC commissioners. On the other side, the Azimio guy said, talks.
Which talks?
Talks.
Talk what? We're not there.
There was something like that. We don't even know. So, George Murugara is the Tharaka MP and member of the Bipartisan Dialogue Committee and also the chairman of the National Assembly Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. He joins us at 9 a.m. to tell us what Kenya Kwanza now will do about this. 18 minutes after 6, we are live streaming the show on YouTube and Facebook. Happy Eid-Ul-Adha to everybody who's celebrating, everybody who's also enjoying the public holiday that is in Kenya. And the public holidays for the people in those countries in, what's it called?
Saudi Arabia, the Gulf. Also in Nigeria, it's 2 days.
Even Nigeria is 2 days. Well, enjoy yourselves. Say hello. We'll be saying hello to you shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
You think you can guess the year?
2007. That's when the theme song, that's when it premiered for the James Bond movies.
You're half correct. But in terms of guessing the year?
Okay, if not 2007, then 1963.
Oh, now you're just throwing things, eh? You're throwing the sufria and everything outside.
The Spice Drive. Big hair and the biggest hits from the best decade.
Getting jiggy with it. Tune in to the Spice Drive with me, Edward Quatch, 3 to 7 in the PM.
The Spice Drive.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 13, highs of 22 coming into Wednesday. 16 and partly cloudy in Nakuru, highs of 25 and lows of 14, and we'll see lows of 14 in a mostly cloudy Nyeri at 14, going to highs of 21. 23 will be the high in Eldoret, where it's cloudy at 12. Light rain showers in Mombasa this morning at 23, going to highs of 29. And it's mostly cloudy at 26 in Malindi, and we'll see highs of 30. It's cloudy at 18 in Kisumu, highs of 29, and highs of 28 in a partly cloudy Kakamega at 17. At 19 degrees, Kampala is clear, highs of 27. Dar es Salaam will see highs of 29 and it's currently partly cloudy at 23. 7 degrees and mostly clear in Johannesburg, highs of 17 and at 25. Lagos is partly cloudy, highs of 29. And Kinshasa will see highs of 30 today. It's currently 22 and cloudy. Looking out into a rainy Beijing at 27, see highs of 29. And it's partly cloudy at 15 in Paris, going to highs of 26. London will see highs of 25. It's currently cloudy at 19. And Tuesday night is cloudy in New York at 21. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 20.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 95.9 104.4 Spice FM.
Dominic Chariot says, good morning. On board from Tarakwa EMC, Elgeyo Marakwet County. Good morning, says Robertson Bogo. Happy Eid-Ul-Adha indeed to everybody. David Mogacha says, good morning. Happy Eid to all our Muslim brothers and sisters. Yes, morning fam. Wish you and our Muslim brothers and sisters a happy Eid-Ul-Adha. Eid Mubarak, Eunice says, tune in from Singapore. Many people online today. Guys have woken up even on the holiday.
Mapema.
Alex Amogi is in Doha and he says he's in as usual. Good morning from Mkubu. As Josegi says, happy holidays. Good morning and happy Eid. Vesh Musanga says good morning, tune in from Arusha. Nella says good morning, Ndu City, and Eric from Minnesota. Geraldine Ochieng says the date today is not correct, but Ednah has done like that. Now, Geraldine also says that is Somali music. It's actually from Juba.
In Somalia.
Juba is not in Somalia.
There's Juba in Somalia.
So it's from the Juba in Somalia, not the Juba in South Sudan.
Jubaland. It's the Jubaland.
Okay, so it could be that way. It could be actually, because it does actually sound. Anyway.
Kismayo is in Juba.
Juba, Sudan.
That's the Juba I was thinking. No. Geraldine amesema City kuna shida ya kuamka. King Dave Lubale says ashatoka kwa pweza sasa ni ngamia. City. Ashatoka kwa soup
ya pweza.
You know what pweza is?
It's a sea animal. Wait.
Yes, it is.
I was going to say starfish.
Hint, it has feet.
What?
It has feet.
Seahorse. Wait. I know it. Wait. Shh.
Okay.
Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Octopus, thank you. Top of the morning to you. Tune in from Al Sharmal, Qatar. Eid Mubarak. Brian Otieno says government offices in Dubai will open on Saturday and Sunday or until Monday and Tuesday. Okay. Carol Yambura says, good morning, everybody. Tune in from Westlands. Jackson Oyako is tuned in. And Bristol Nagila says, what is the kissy frequency? Ednah. What's the kissy frequency?
She doesn't remember. She'll tell you about Juba.
Tell you later. Ednah is on Juba things right now. Good morning and a cold morning from Kimilili. Now, if they say Kimilili is cold, what is that, like 25 degrees? Happy and blessed Eid to you too, brother. Good morning, the big four, Eric CT Ndu, and the very amazing Wangari. She's not here today. Streaming live from the UAE. Well, good morning to you. Many people online this morning. Thanks for joining us, even on this holiday. Good to have you in the room. Karibuni sana.
Karibu kila mtu City.
Yes, please.
We are still in the country of Kenya.
No. The other Kenya is called?
You guys are awake.
Nice save.
This is very good. Very good. Arrogance burnt the chief's compound.
What? Who annoyed arrogance?
Arrogance burnt the chief's compound.
Yeah, hiyo ndio proverb ambayo imesema leo.
Who touched it? The chief?
Arrogance. They're looking at the root cause.
Aye. Okay. Arrogance burnt the chief's compound. Acha tutasikia what other interpretations of that one as the day goes on. All right, let's look at the headlines.
All right, on the front page of the Standard, Raila's boycott call. This is what we saw yesterday as Raila Odinga jetted back into the country and then led a rally at the Kamkunji, and he called for a series of civil disobedience actions, including tax boycotts and resumption of countrywide demonstrations in a bid to force the government to repeal the Finance Act 2023, which he says will make life difficult for Kenyans. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One of them, to 6, we'll look at them in a minute, but there are many things that they've called for. Food, fuel, and freedom are some of Azimio's key action plans. He's announced a series of these, so we'll look into those in some detail. Now, while all this is bubbling, head teachers have said they want to raise school fees.
Head teachers?
Because this life is too hard. At least, if they raise the school fees, even if Treasury delays them, they'll have, a little bit extra to kind of deal.
Parents have a problem paying this fees which isn't raised.
Yes, so now the brilliant idea is to
that
even
if you
raise
the
it higher.
so this action will now make it possible for parents to pay the fees, which they were not able to pay when the fees was less, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
It sounds like the reasoning. Whether it is sound reasoning or not, it's up to you to do it.
It's a different story altogether.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
A court has dismissed the DPP attempt to withdraw the 221 million SGR case. Look at that later. On the front page of The Nation, Raila leads Azimio in tax boycott push. A blow to parents.
Okay, no, you'll tell us.
I'll give you the details of this. Boycott a number of things. I don't know how you got. Anyway, we'll give you
boycott
that in
taxes. All right.
Do not pay taxes is what he's saying. And the one, interestingly enough, there is a how to do this time round.
Okay.
Blow to parents as mid-year school transfers have been banned. This is a blow because many times, somewhere during the year, especially getting closer to an exam, parents would then be able to transfer their children to sit in a school whereby they felt as though the mean score would be higher than where they currently were, right? It's a practice, it's done. Whether they want to admit it or not, it happens. Now, the Ministry of Education has said, sorry, not happening anymore. We'll give you details of that as well. Quite a number of things going on here. The pending bill story, we saw that 641 billion shillings pending bills to be audited as the team gets a cabinet go-ahead. And on the back page of The Nation, MPs mull tough new rules for independent power producers. They want IPPs to reduce the cost of selling electricity by at least 10 shillings per unit. These MPs, when they want to work, they can do something.
They can do something. They can actually work. Let me tell you what's on the Business Daily. Weak shilling, global rate rises cost Kenya 27 billion shillings. Aggressive interest rate increases by central banks in rich countries amidst sustained weakening of the shilling have cost Kenya additional 27.23 billion in foreign debt repayments, the Treasury has said, eating into the budget for development projects. As in 27 bob, just like that, 27 billion. The Treasury has received approval from lawmakers to raise expenditures on external debt in the current financial year ending this Friday to 389 billion from 362 billion, which had been projected in February. That request to increase spending on foreign debt by 7.5% was granted through the second supplementary budget last week. 2 weeks to the end of the financial year, government is still taking a supplementary budget to Parliament. Higher, 1 year wait for suppliers as cabinet orders pending bills audit. 1 year wait. You have supplied to the government. You have submitted an invoice and you've been waiting since 2015. 2015 is 2005, actually, not even 2015. Since 2005. That's 18 years. You can wait 1 more year. All right. Contractors and suppliers of goods and services to the national government face a longer wait for more than 537 billion shillings after the cabinet approved the setting up of a special committee to audit the pending bills before payment can start. We'll discuss that later. Ticker headlines. Inflation hands Thuge first major test at the central bank. U.S. taxi firm InDrive gets license to operate in Kenya. And Balubai buys 5 million more shares in Absa. Hey. This man called Balubai Patel is a billionaire investor. He has bought an additional 5 million shares in Absa Bank Kenya PLC, which are worth 58 million shillings at the current market price, as he strengthens his position as the single largest local investor in Absa. He is the single largest local owner of Absa. Okay?
And he owns many other shares.
And he has many other shares in many other companies.
Including...
He's one of the largest single largest investors in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Where?
Yep.
How old is he? Past 80 years old. How coherent and sharp is he? Like a knife.
A sharpened knife.
Why a sharpened knife? City, the Star.
Yes, the okay, headline. Let's start with the teal green. On the right-hand teal green corner, retrenchment. Jitters at Nakuru County Government as Nakuru County Government sends home
over 500 health workers. The number is actually 537.
Okay.
Stories on page 9. State House call, bang in the middle, bold, black. State House call that nearly triggered a fight. This is with reference to the matter that was before the Senate, which related to the case that was brought against one Mr. William Oduol, the deputy governor of Siaya. Ruto senators wanted to alter report after unanimously endorsing Oduol report. You read that story, there's a back and forth and back at the committee level. 5 said no, we don't remove him. 6 said remove him, so it wasn't unanimous. Then, according to the story, there was a call that came in, and lo and behold, defiance and disobedience, Raila's new battle against Ruto. This is the grand picture, and they were careful to mention every person who is in that picture, who you can see out there. They were named: Wycliffe Oparanya, Irene Mayaka, Eugene Wamalwa, Martha Karua, Stuart Madzayo, Raila Odinga, Millie Odhiambo, Mwangi Wairia, Rosa Buya, and Peter Salasia. During a rally on Kamkunji grounds in Nairobi yesterday. Okay? Lawmakers vow to get the bottom. This is nonsense. Lawmakers vow to get to the bottom of alleged rot at NHIF. I'm saying it's nonsense because
they will get they will
this
get
time
to the bottom
round.
of it.
No, this is.
You know, there are members there who are new.
So
okay,
what?
You haven't dealt.
How many new members?
You haven't
have
dealt with
had?
them before.
How many new members has this organization had? How many CEOs? How many new board members? How many over the years? And do you
Those
hear?
are weaklings. You have not met these ones. These ones. These ones. They mean business, my friend.
All right, let's talk about something more pleasant. Food security. Expect bumper harvest of 35 to 40 million bags of maize, says PS. Okay?
Okay.
Yes. That this one, just wait and see. There'll be a bumper. What?
Harvest.
And we expect a lot of maize.
Very good.
Yes.
So let's
It
take a
won't be
break
affected
then.
by the high cost of fuel.
The harvest.
Why don't you focus on why don't you focus on what I've just said?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Bumper harvest.
Bumper harvest.
So the maize crop does not use fuel to grow.
It does not.
That's a good thing.
All right. Have you heard?
Yes, please.
27 minutes to 7. Tell us how the roads are looking like with the cost of fuel. So,
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
I have a brother. He was a pilot. He was laid off. He came to a policeman. He messed up.
He went from a pilot to a policeman.
Exactly.
He stole a jet.
Yeah.
In fact, you should be lucky he was not court-martialed.
The Spice Drive. Big hair and the biggest hits from the best decade.
Indeed, it's all about hashtag Spice Drive, hashtag Quatch, KWACH, 3 to 7 in the PM.
The Spice Drive. Spice up your life.
You won't see a lot of that today. We're just going to see a bit of a hold up here on Mombasa Road because of the construction that is taking place. So it goes, as you're coming inbound, you will find that you will not then be able to go over the slope that will then connect you to the southern bypass. If you're coming in from the southern bypass and then over on the overpass, you're going to have to go the round way and then come out at Airtel. It's not too far, but just know that your normal road has been blocked off as they start that construction. That's the only hiccup you're going to see today, at least for now. We don't have any traffic on the Thika Superhighway. There's none on Jogger Road, so you know it's a sleepy day. Let's keep an eye on and just either way, keep things moving. You'll be tempted to go faster than normal if you're out and about today, but please be careful so we don't have any mishaps. Shall we? Let's talk on Spice FMKE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
25 to 7.
Number 1, Azimio says, to adopt a series of civil disobedience measures to deny government tax. Number 2, mass demos to kick off on the 7th of July at Kamkunji, the venue of pro-democracy protests in the 90s. Number 3, Raila withdraws Azimio La Umoja team from the bipartisan talks. Number 4, Raila tells workers to leave cars at home or pool transport so as to minimize fuel consumption. Number 5, he asks Kenyans to picket until the Finance Act 2023 is repealed to cut down taxes. And number 6, calls on social media to name and shame MPs who voted for the Finance Bill 2023. So there are a raft of measures that are being called for here. We saw the Kamkunji rally that took place after Raila Odinga jetted into the country.
What's happened to this guy?
Who? He's got the heebie-jeebies, the tickles.
Yeah. Eric, what's happening?
I am reading the actual speech by Raila, but you go on.
Shall I continue with the story?
Please continue.
Thank you very much. Raila said that President William Ruto assented to the Finance Bill 2023 despite more than 90% of Kenyans opposing its implementation, and wondered how he ran the best of interests of the country, rather, how Ruto can have the best interests of the country more than the citizens themselves. He says, in the run-up to the vote of the bill, more than 90% of Kenyans had rejected it. However, true to his character as a dictator, Ruto proceeded as if Kenyans had not spoken, and he imposed punitive taxes on us without our consent. He addressed a rally at the historic Kamkunji grounds in Nairobi, moments after arriving in the country from a trip to Poland. He announced the resumption of mass protests on the 7th of July. He claimed there was re-emergence of authoritarianism, where the president and his deputy were operating in total disregard of the wishes of the citizen. I'm going to read one last quote. He says, Ruto is testing the limits of his power, testing if we will have energy after stealing our victory. He thinks he will get away with anything. Let him know that this time round, Kenyans are united more than any other time to fight the draconian measures being undertaken by his administration.
Tukatai.
Yeah.
Kabisa.
Until it is repealed.
And the formula is let us walk.
Yeah, so this fuel that they're saying...
pool cars.
Or pool cars.
Yes,
so, or.
You
so
see?
The thing is, use as little fuel as possible. Number 1, it's hurting you. Number 2, then they'll not be able to collect these taxes that they're looking for if you don't use it, right?
That's a very bougie suggestion. Most people who walk don't have cars.
That's why I'm laughing.
Most people don't have cars.
They don't have cars. They don't even have bicycles.
Yeah. Let us limit the consumption of petrol. One way to do this is to carpool. Let us rearrange to make regular journeys in a single vehicle whenever possible. Give each other a ride. Cut down on non-essential travel.
Raila should sack the guy who wrote this.
Walk instead of driving whenever possible.
No, sincerely. The guy who included this.
Now, for the rest of you Watus, you use Matatu, I appeal to Matatu owners to support tax boycotts. While observing safety measures, maintain the current fare, but double your carrying capacity as part of civil disobedience. While observing safety measures, carry double the capacity.
But
there you've just, it's counterintuitive.
Yes, you've abrogated the very thing that you're advancing. Surely.
While breaking the law. Because you cannot carry to, overflowing capacity. You can't do that.
Now, this one, I'm going to wax a little eloquently on this one.
Here we go.
I don't particularly have a solution, but whoever penned down these suggestions for the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, it's a complete boo-boo. There is nothing that has been said here which can fly. It does not make sense. It cannot be applied to the majority of people in this country don't own cars. Just start there. The vast majority.
And so what we want to do is make sure that these buses that have a what capacity? Carrying capacity?
52.
Let's say 52. So a 52 capacity bus carry 100. Sawa. And maintain the
Others
current
will
fare.
stand, but maintain safety standards.
No, these manyangas don't have a capacity of 52.
So I'm talking about the upcountry ones.
The ones
the upcountry ones are 52.
Now let them carry 100.
Let's take these other ones, the 36-seater, the 32-seater, with the 14-seater, right?
So
now if it's 14, you sit 28.
You'll be overloading. First of all, you'll be breaking the law.
That's what we're saying.
No, while observing safety measures.
No, you'll be breaking the law because...
Now what we are also telling the police is...
join the civil disobedience.
Yes,
And
let
these
the
people
police. Our police officers should support our call by allowing matatus to carry above capacity at the current cost so that Kenyans can commute.
No, but surely the person who wrote this, what are you talking about? Did we not have people who deal with traffic here? Legal officers who deal with traffic, and they explain these things to us. The magistrates who manage traffic at the Milimani courts.
Yes.
The passenger door, right next to the tire, there is like a small thing that you indicate.
The tire
passenger, tire weight, all that. So now you are telling people to protest and you ask them to break the law.
While observing safety standards.
I mean, those things are set there specifically so that you can maintain safety. If you overload the car, you already make the car unstable or the vehicle. So the likelihood of having an accident is really, you increase it. The thing can just disintegrate before your very eyes.
So basically, Raila is saying, let's matatus double their capacity.
No.
Okay?
No.
This as a way of civil disobedience.
No.
So still go and buy the fuel at that price. All right? But now, so that there's civil disobedience, let the matatus carry double.
The person
so that we protest against the rise in fuel prices. Go and fuel the vehicle. Of course, it'll consume more fuel if you add the weight. But this is a civil
the person
disobedience.
who wrote
and,
this
and,
speech.
and for the rest of you all, avoid driving your own vehicles.
Carpool.
In many ways,
Where are you going today? Can
or
I
even
come with you
reduce
tomorrow?
going. I mean, just work from home. I mean, you know what? Why do you need to go? Just
listen to this.
Stay at home.
Who wrote this?
I appeal to businesses to disable or avoid the ETR machines, make nil returns on VAT, and instead give discounts to customers.
So you had a story. My good Lord.
Civil disobedience. It's not civil disobedience when you're breaking the law. No, you're not. You are encouraging lawlessness. The problem is this. You set this in motion. What do you think you are igniting? What is it that people are going to read into this? What is it that people are going to understand from this? Civil disobedience will equal break the law as you see fit.
That's what he wants. But he wants... That's okay. If you're just saying...
Okay, where? Exactly.
This is the essence of civil disobedience, right?
To break the law.
But then, do you actually subject yourself to direct harm? For example, by boarding an overloaded vehicle.
Come on,
bro.
Man.
COVID never went anywhere.
Can you...
You sardine can people in a matatu, the likelihood for... Let's push COVID aside. Other airborne diseases.
Even an accident.
No, I'm thinking disease before I get to accidents.
Come on.
I have a story. We will increase school fees and scrap activities. This is what the principals are saying. Yesterday's story was principals have gone rogue. That the Ministry of Education has no handle on principals. That the Teacher Service Commission, the employer, has no handle on principals. Principals have said, yes, what's a handle? Secondary school principals have threatened to increase fees due to delays in the disbursement of capitation. The over 8,000 teachers also warned they might do away with some programs because of the rising cost of goods and services. Speaking at the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association annual meeting in Mombasa, they said it's becoming difficult to run schools because of the escalating prices of foodstuff. The school heads noted that the government capitation only pays for tuition, leaving them with a burden of financing other programs like boarding, salaries for temporary teaching staff, and food. KESA chairman Kahi Indimuli says the government is yet to clear the capitation arrears amounting to 9,000 shillings per student for the 2021 and 2022 academic calendars. Several schools are struggling, he said, and what we may be forced to do is do away with some programs. Some schools have indeed given the parents a burden of increased fees, so schools are operating on very absurd conditions and they may be forced to raise fees. The principals explained that the government only released 17,000 and 18,000 per student for the 2 years instead of 22,400 per student per year. So the school principals are basically saying, you know what, now We're looking at the timetable, the programs that we have. Forget lab, forget PE, drama festival, forget it, football, forget it. And now we only go to class and we have 4 subjects a day because you also can't hire extra teachers. So we'll only do math. And then we do Kiswahili.
These people know exactly what the students need.
And CRE, we can bring a Bible to class.
These are
bring a Sunday school teachers.
What are they doing? Who? These heads, these are professional. By the time you become a headmaster, you're a professional teacher. They know full well that what they're suggesting is nonsensical. They know, so that they don't know. They know.
But I don't think.
So what are they doing?
So the call here is not directly. Is the call actually for me is to those folks at the Treasury and the greater ministry who are supposed to be releasing funds and adequate funds in good time.
So this is civil disobedience.
This is a message not to the parents. This is a message to those because they know it's going to bring about some kind of, struggle in between. But the message is very clear. Capitation is 22,000 shillings. We know that. It has been. With the 22,000 shillings paid on time, these schools have been able to run themselves properly. They've been able to go into tuition. They've been able to provide food. They've been able to actually go into these extracurricular activities, sporting events, sports day, all of that. They've been able to do it very well. Now, over the last 2 years, we've seen the systematic regularity that shaving off of that funding has and the effect that it has taken on schools. They've not been able to do the things that they ought to have done. In the COVID years of 2020 and 2021, it wasn't really a problem because there were none of those activities. Most of 2020 was spent out of school anyway.
Yeah.
So you didn't feel the effect. Now that those things are coming back and are being demanded by ministry as part of curriculum, it's a problem. You could get away with sending them 17,000 shillings in 2020. You could get away with sending them 17,000 shillings in 2021. 2023, you cannot. And nobody complained about it then because, there was not really much to be done because we couldn't move anyway. Now it's back. What are you going to do? And I keep asking that question. They've been asking, what are we going to do? Are we going to not go for these competitions? Are we not going to include extracurricular activities? Now, you cannot get away with the murder, essentially, that you have been getting away with the last 2 years. You cannot. 22,000 shillings. Okay, they just sent them 24 billion shillings 3 weeks ago. That 24 billion shillings that they sent them was the balance of 2022 third term and a little bit of 2023 first term. And it was not even complete. They're waiting for second term money and the completion of first term money. This message is not for parents. This message is directly to the ministry and the treasury to say, you guys, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, we have no choice but to raise fees. And you already know how bad things are. People have not been finished paying their arrears from 2022 first term.
I hear what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense.
What you are saying.
It makes a lot of sense. And if you look at the chronology of events, as you've clearly said it, makes a lot of sense because, the government ought to be, because it has taken up that responsibility and money has been set aside in a budget, it ought to be sending this money to schools on time so that our children can learn and learn well, right? The government has not been doing this. And I support the school principals when they raise these issues, especially with one voice. But I think it would be better if the school principal said, we are not opening school.
I think so too.
Don't say we are going to raise fees, because you go that route, the government will be like, and people have paid. Okay.
And if people
because
the few that
parents
will
feel the pinch, they'll look around, they'll do whatever they'll find the money. Some parents will send their children to school. Many others will not be able to send their children to school, but schools will be operating. As long as that's happening, Machogu and Belio Kipsang will be sleeping easy.
No, they say our schools
we are not opening school. We are sending these kids home for half term, and until you get money, nobody should come back to school. Now that is proper pressure. But I think that yes, indeed, the Education Ministry, the National Treasury, in fact, not even forget about those ones. President William Ruto needs to feel the heat for what is happening in our education sector. This is exactly how we kill our public education system and go and push people to private education, and private education becomes more and more expensive because it has no competition.
And let me tell you,
and many people then are not able to afford an education for their children. what does that do to generations of Kenyans? This is a big issue. We have said it many times. We should stop, put a pause on everything else and address education, because we're talking about children, but we don't.
Let me not even get to the failing infrastructure in public schools today. It is an eyesore. You know, we can sit here, people build castles in the sky and think, oh yes, children are going to school, so whatever. The infrastructure in public schools, whether you are in urban, whether you are in rural, but public schools infrastructure is dilapidated. It is absolutely ridiculous that children are going to school in the conditions that they are going. And anybody who is listening to me knows exactly what I'm talking about. Structures, if they exist, are in ruins. They're falling apart. And this is exactly what we're talking about. That you are taking the public system and that you're squeezing it to within an inch of its life, and you're forcing people to go into the private sector. Meanwhile, education, when you look at that budget, guess what? Guess what percentage? Almost a third.
It is the lion's share.
Almost a third of the budget goes towards education. And the question is, what are you doing with it? What are you doing with it?
Over 600, every year.
July 2023, the money you have sent to schools is for 2022. Come on, man.
The questions that have to be asked is, there's no year that the National Treasury closes the year with saying that, okay, we started the year with a 3.2 trillion shilling budget. We are closing with a 2.8 trillion shilling budget. And it's because we could not raise enough. So we did not spend as much. We didn't send money to schools. We didn't pay pending bills. We didn't do this. So instead of the 3.2 trillion that we had budgeted to spend, we have actually spent 2.8. We actually end up with, we started with a 3.2 trillion shilling budget. We have spent 3.4 trillion shillings. Where are you spending 3.4 trillion shillings if you're not paying people who have supplied you, if you're not sending money to school? So who is
And you're not even sending the complete money.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you have not spent the entire 600 plus billion shillings for education, on education, what have you spent it on? Because you're coming back to Parliament and saying we spent the money that you told us to spend. In fact, we came and asked that we could spend slightly more, and you allowed us to spend slightly more.
So where did it go?
It means that the 600B for education was not touched. It was supposed to have gone, and you're coming to say it went. Where did it go?
Where did it go?
Because it means isn't there.
It isn't
not there.
It means that all those programs that you said, okay, we want to do this and the other, we want to build something here, we want to build something there in departments, in ministries, in departments, in agencies, you come back and you said, actually, we've spent a bit more. But you have not spent it because you have not paid the people who supplied water, computers, build roads, build abattoirs. You have not paid them. So where did you spend
Where did you spend the money? And now let me shock you even more. You see this 24 billion that was released at the beginning of June. There are some schools who have not received
a shilling.
1 shilling.
Remember those schools that existed on paper?
This is not even the now the ones that exist on paper. I'm sure they've received some money. These ones,
those
where
ones
the
that got money.
These
Actual
ones where the
schools?
actual students in school have not received cash.
I told you this story about expecting a bumper harvest. Huh?
Yes.
Agricultural PS Kelo Harsama has said. Well, he seems to be contradicted by certain experts. There's an organization called Climate Prediction and Application Center, ICPAC. These are climate. ICPAC is these are accountants people. These are weather people.
Oh, okay, somebody else.
That's why I decided to read it. It's ICPAC. That's why I'm calling it ICPAC.
Sour.
Now, they are saying that in the next 3 months, temperatures are going to be higher. But they're also saying that farmers who planted their maize later than the others are likely not to have a good harvest, simply because of the weather patterns. And they're also saying that this El Nino people keep speaking of, people think it is the weather. No. It's a condition that brings about extreme weather situations. Okay? It can bring a lot of rainfall, not sustainable over a period of time, but a lot of it in a short period or even a long period. Or you can have an El Nino situation where there's no rain. But the situation, all the matrices that come together and conspire to bring it about are there. Now, the net result they're saying is that the problems that we're having, he said, it isn't just in Kenya. To understand these weather patterns, you need to look at the regions around us and look at what's happening in those regions. Somalia, for instance, Ethiopia, and you can tell what's also going to happen here. Because we share certain geographical, whatever else they share, these technical terms. But the point is this. The head of the Kenya Met Department, a gentleman by the name of David Kikungu, he said that one of the things that you will expect is that the impact on these weather patterns, it's not as though they come immediately. Once you've recognized that there'll be El Nino, what it means is it'll affect food production, it'll affect very many other things at the same time. So whereas the PS is saying we're going to have a bumper harvest, it may not be quite what he says, because harvests are a factor of the climate. Whether they're going to have short rains, long rains. These people who now require a lot more rain so that their crops can actually grow to fruition are not going to have that rain, simply because of this movement of weather patterns. But there's a story that caught my attention here, and I'd like to mention it, if I may. Taxman risks holding on to dead machines in excise stamps deal. Yep.
Dead machines.
Yeah, there is a Swiss company. It's called SA Security Solutions, otherwise known as SIS.
Let's just call it SA.
SA Security Solution, SICPA. Okay. Apparently, they're the ones who provided Kenya Revenue Authority with the excisable goods management system, that is EGMS, including the printing of excise stamps since 2013. Now, as would happen with every new financial year, tenders go out. Now, the furor is coming about because they are saying that in the event that they do not get the tender, then there are certain things that are likely to happen. For instance, some of the things that the KRA was supposed to do with regards to these excisable stamps and duty stamps, the machine will not be able to produce them. So that means a direct loss of revenue for KRA. And these were discussions that were being held when the chief commercial officer, a gentleman by the name of Gianni Santoro, appeared before the National Assembly's Public Investment Committee on Commercial Affairs. Now, the question that was asked by the lawmakers, there's one particular lawmaker who asked a question, and he said he did not say, a gentleman by the name of one Mr. Mwangi Kiunjuri, Laikipia East MP, he said, you're the ones holding the live machines. You switch off the patients, and if you give an example, is dead, now you're about to switch it off. This means the machine cannot be used by the people. He's accusing this firm of more or less arm twisting KRA to force them to only use the machine if they are to continue with that work. And this chief commercial officer said, actually, every company that does what we do have a unique solution. Now that unique solution also comes with security keys. Otherwise, if there were no security keys, then anybody
can just use our...
Exactly.
Yes.
All we are saying is that we have a security key. Now, unless no one else can use it. It's only us.
Yeah.
So unless, if we don't get the tender, then you're right. No one else will be able to use it. Because we are the ones who use the security key. Now, apparently this machine was purchased for 2 billion shillings, okay? But the stamps and the supply of it, the software that goes with this, KRA still owes 4.8 billion. So this package, this deal was supposed to be 6.8 billion when you do the maths. And now that hangs in a balance. By the time the officer of a private company is being called by the investment committee, something clearly. It means I'm going to venture into a little naysaying here. Somebody already has their own person whom they feel can bring this machine and bring this about.
There's a new supplier.
There's a new supplier
who's been lined up.
Who's been lined up.
Oh, God.
And they're being told, you bring that supplier. But this is what's going to happen.
Oh, God.
Yes, I thought I would mention this.
Oh, God. Yeah. Happy Eid-Ul-Adha, everybody. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Thank you very much for waking up early and tuning in. Conversations continue. It's 7 a.m. Time for the news.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Kenyans who are not for the taxes imposed in the 2023 finance bill have been urged to join Azimio leader Raila Odinga on nationwide protests. Speaking at the Kamkunji Stadium, Raila criticized President William Ruto for ignoring the views of the people and advised them to refrain from paying taxes by boycotting all products and services where taxes have been increased.
Let us embrace tax boycotts. Let us deny Ruto the fuel. Let us deny Ruto the fuel tax by limiting consumption of petrol and diesel. One way to do this is to carpool. Let us arrange to make regular journeys in a single vehicle whenever possible. Give each other a ride. Cut down on non-essential travel. Walk instead of driving whenever possible. I appeal to all employers to allow their workers time to walk to and from work.
Azimio also said that withdrawn from the bipartisan talks with Kenya Kwanza. DAP-K party leader Eugene Wamalwa said the opposition will no longer participate in negotiations with the government.
Sasa sikiza niwasomee vile tumeamua. Having imposed on us the punitive taxation measures contained in the Finance Act 2023 in complete disregard of our views, we declare an end to the bipartisan talks to which we had sent our delegation in the hope that Kenya Kwanza will show interest in resolving the pro-people issues, including the cost of living. It is time for action. Wakati wa kuongea umekwisha. It is time for...
Wamalo also announced a special campaign of defiance and civil disobedience.
From today, we embark on a campaign of defiance and civil disobedience, which will take different forms at different times, including refusal to pay taxes. We the people shall convene on the 7th day of July, Sabasaba Day 2023, which event will unveil a program for nationwide civil disobedience to force the Kenya regime home.
The protests are set to kick off on Friday next week. Now, Kenya Kwanza Committee has threatened that IBC selection panel will proceed with task if Azimio does not resume talks by Tuesday next week. The 7 comes as Azimio has already withdrawn from the bipartisan talks. MPs have initiated a 5-pronged probe into alleged financial mess at the NHIF. The Health Committee, disturbed by events at NHIF, said a thorough investigation is the only way to save the health insurer from its deathbed. The probe, according to the committee chairman Robert Bukose, will delve into the usage of millions contributed by members, failure to remit capitations to health facilities, refusal by hospitals to accept NHIF cards, and the recent promotions at the agency.
And as a committee, we'll ensure that we hold the NHIF accountable for that. Often when we ask for an inquiry like this, you'll find that changes are done in the ministry to frustrate the committee in terms of its investigations, where you have officers maybe being deployed somewhere else, being removed from their various places of work, and being taken to other areas.
Police officers in Kajiado County are investigating an incident where a mother is believed to have set her children on fire following differences with her husband. It's said that the mother burned the children between the ages of 10 and 2 years old while they were inside the house. The bodies were burnt beyond recognition and have been taken to the Kajiado Referral Hospital mortuary. Health workers in Machakos have threatened to down their tools in 3 weeks' time if the administration fails to address their concerns. KMPDU Lower Eastern Chairman Charles Okumu said over 2,500 medics issued the notice to Governor Wavinya and Ndeti's administration through their respective leaders. Okumu further said their issues of concern were promotions of healthcare workers that were to happen in 2022 and some this year, staff shortage, as well as inadequate hospital supplies. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Spice FM, Nakuru
Okay, so not much in terms of traffic this morning. It is, after all, a holiday. Most folks indoors, and we're not seeing much movement on the streets. In the CBD, you'll have movement, folks getting around to do that little thing they thought they could do when most folks are not in the city. But apart from that, you'll be all right. Jogger Road, free and clear, except for the folks on the Northern Bypass who just have to be on that road every now and then for some reason or another. There's in and outbound traffic then going out towards Kiabu. Apart from that, we should be all right. Not much happening in other parts. Just in case it does pop off, we'll let you know. Let us know as well. Spice FMKE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Idul Adha to everybody, all our listeners across the globe. Thank you very much for tuning in on this 28th day of June 2023, Kenya's biggest conversation. As we wake up to a new day, we also wake up to a new day where many people have no access to clean, safe drinking water across the country. And it's important that we do something about it, because we have an opportunity and the ability to. For as long as you're buying toothpaste, think Colgate, think Naivas. Walk into any Naivas supermarket across the country, buy a Colgate toothpaste, and for every tube of Colgate that you buy, some of that money goes towards building 30 water wells that will benefit up to 150,000, no, more than 150,000 people in the country. They have no access to safe drinking water, no opportunity to smile this morning, nothing to smile about. Let's put smiles on their faces by supporting this. It's a drive by Colgate, go by Colgate exclusively at Naivas, and you will be doing a lot to help people. City, today's proverb, please.
Yes, today's proverb. Arrogance burnt the chief's compound.
Arrogance burnt
the chief's compound.
The chief's compound.
The chief had a compound.
Yeah.
He was arrogant. The arrogance left his compound and went and started burning it from the outside.
Okay.
So arrogance burnt the who?
Chief's compound.
The chief's compound.
Chief and arrogance were together. Yes. Chief went somewhere, arrogance went with him. But on this particular occasion, arrogance left the chief and burnt his
compound.
Yes.
Boy. Okay. Excuse me.
That's
Now, I want to read something here.
You want to tell us a story?
I want to tell you a story.
A happy story, yo.
A happy story, yo. Hopefully. The cabinet met yesterday. Okay? And in that cabinet meeting, there were some 4 new strangers who will now be sitting in the cabinet as well. I do not know what our laws say about people who are not cabinet ministers sitting in cabinet meetings.
Session.
Regular cabinet meetings. Anyway, that's not the point. So the cabinet met yesterday, and the dispatch from the cabinet office says the cabinet has approved the establishment of a special committee on pending bills. The Pending Bills Verification Committee will be tasked with the auditing of liabilities for the period between, get this, 2005 and 2022. How many years are those?
18.
2005 and 2022.
17.
In a meeting chaired by President William Ruto at State House, the cabinet noted that pending bills remains a sticky issue. The national government pending bills since June 2005 to June 2022 stood at 481 billion shillings, while counties owe 159.9 billion shillings. The committee will consist the Attorney General, the State Department for Roads, State Department for Public Works, the State Department for Housing and Urban Development, and the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority. Other members will be the EACC, the Law Society of Kenya, the Institute of Engineers of Kenya, Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, who will also be in this. They are to examine and submit interim reports to the Treasury Cabinet Secretary upon verification, and the government will honor the obligations in question. This move is aimed at establishing the integrity of all bills and cushioning small enterprises against liquidity inadequacies. Crucially, the committee will propose a mechanism to stop future pending bills. It's agreed the committee will present its final report within a year. That is June 2024. Okay? I want to read that paragraph again. The move is aimed at establishing integrity of all bills and cushioning small enterprises against liquidity inadequacies. We had a conversation with the Secretary General of the Association of Government Suppliers here. And he told us just a few stories off the top of his head of people that he has interacted with in his association, and others are not members of his association, but people who have supplied government in various levels. They either supplied services or goods to government. They have invoiced. They followed due process, even invoiced and got all their paperwork, but they have not received payment. And because of that, because of the delayed payment, the people that they had borrowed from to finance the jobs that they did came for their money. And they lost their property. We're only given a couple of stories here, but we have read, we have heard, we have talked to people, we've had very many stories of people who are small traders, who are owed billions of money by the government. By the government's own admission, by June last year, the national government owed 481 billion shillings to people. 481 billion is not just a figure. 481 billion is small traders. 481 billion is the employees of those small traders. 481 billion is the families of those small traders. These are human beings. 481 billion is not just a number.
I have a few questions.
Yes.
All right. So, by the time you're going to do business or you're going to do a job for the government, whether it is at county level, whether it's at the national level, there is a bid, right?
Yep.
A bid in the form of maybe tenders, but there's a bid. And by the time this bid comes out, there's standard requirements that have been set. Is it not? If you then are selected to do this job, that means that you have met the threshold and in many cases surpassed. And if you have been seen to be the one that will do the most efficient job at a very good price, that is how you that are then selected.
Yep.
So far, so good?
So far, so good.
All right. You've met the requirements, so you've been given the job. In most cases with government, you are not given money to start the work. You do the work and then you're paid in arrears.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. You're also given a time frame within which this work ought to have been completed. Now, when the work is completed, you then submit an invoice. Okay?
Yeah.
This is the work that I have done at whatever level. It could be, it could be supply of stationery. It could be, constructing of a part of a road, a building, whatever. But then you supply an invoice. That invoice is received.
Yes.
It is receipted. It is documented. Should there be any issues with your invoice, it is returned to you and you're asked to go and rectify 1, 2, 3 before you bring it back to us. But upon acceptance of your invoice, that is a nod to say that everything is what? In order. And what you're waiting for is payment.
Yep.
Usually they will tell you 30, 45, 60, 90 days when your payment will come out because, it's government and there's a lot of protocol back and forth, signing here, blah, blah, impressed. Okay?
Yep.
But by the time you invoice, that is an acceptance that the job has been completed and there's satisfaction across board.
Yep.
Okay? Let's take a few steps before that. By the time this bid or this tender is made public, the assumption, or what should be the reality, is that there is a budget for this project.
Yep.
That they have looked and they have said, look, we need this to be done. We have this money available for it. And then we're going to ask for these bids. So the budget is available. It is not aspirational. It is not, okay, let's do this project and then let us go and look for the money. Right? The budget is there. Now, those are three processes that we've looked at. Maybe in reverse order, we say there's a tender that's been put up because there's budget available and there's this project that needs to be done, right?
Yes.
There are bids that have come out. People have put forth their bids. You have selected somebody based on their efficiency and their affordability when it comes to money then that you can pay. They're selected. They go ahead and they do their job, the job. In most cases, people will go and they will get a loan or they will look for, project financing. That will happen. They will finish and then they will submit. Now, the third is that they will submit their invoice and they wait for money to be paid for them. Now, my question is, these pending bills that we're seeing of 650 billion shillings, why is this money not paid when it is inevitable that these three processes that I've talked about have taken place? Why? And if those three processes have taken place, why do you then need a committee that is going to sit for 365 days to verify a process which has already been verified by nature of the fact that 1, you've bid, 2, you've awarded, and 3, they have invoiced?
4, the money for it was available.
Exactly.
That's why
there was a budget.
That's why these processes took place.
Exactly. So what double verification is this that you need to do? Because this committee, they will not sit and you'll greet them in the air and say thank you for your service to government. No. You will sit them, you will pay them, you will sort out. More money will be spent for this committee to go through this verification process. So why do you need double verification on something that by nature was already a verification, 3-step verification process took place for you to get to this 650 billion. Why do you need another verification process to verify what has already been verified by virtue of the fact that they finished the project?
Because
Why?
Because
the Uhuru government left us with 500 billion pending bills.
Okay.
And we're not sure that these pending bills are really pending bills. We're also not sure that the work that is said to have been done and therefore invoice was actually done.
All right.
Though we know the invoice actually exists.
Okay.
And we just want to make sure that we're cleaning house. We're not just talking about Uhuru. We're going to go beyond Uhuru. And we're going to look at these things in great detail to make sure.
Kibaki days of
2005. Yes. We want to make sure that all these things we keep talking about, money being lost, that we've actually gotten to the bottom of it. Okay? My suggestion to them, why don't you just go back to 1964? That now would be complete. You would have left no stone unturned.
You know, the issue here, and that's why I repeated that statement, is to make sure that small and micro businesses do not continue suffering liquidity challenges.
Come on.
Look, if we just begin, let's not even go back to the Kibaki years. Let's not go to 2005 to 2012. Let's start with 2013, Jubilee 1. 2017, Jubilee 2, and now Kenya Kwanza 1. All right? If we look at that and look at the small, micro and small enterprises that actually went through the process of seeing a tender advertised, bidding for it, winning, supplying, invoicing, and not getting paid. If we look at that and the kind of suffering that they have undergone in the last, since 2013 to, let's even say 2013 to 2022, those 9 years, how many micro and small enterprises actually suffered liquidity to the level that they went under? Yesterday was World MSME Day. Yesterday, the cabinet was discussing the small bills that are owed by MSMEs. As we talk about developing our MSMEs, that's what we're discussing, and how much they are owed by government, to the tune of 480 billion shillings by national government, 160 billion shillings by county government. And you're now saying that despite everything else that happened, open your computer and go and search Uhuru order for paying pending bills and all those things, and just see the kind of stories that we saw. Uhuru saying pending bills are going to be paid. Pending bills, I order pending bills verification to happen. Pending bills verification happened in the previous administration, not once, not twice.
Yes.
The cabinet secretaries for the National Treasury went to Parliament and said, yes, we are verifying and we are actually allocating some money in the budget to clear pending bills. Like I said earlier, when the National Treasury is coming for a new budget cycle, they don't come and say, you had approved for us to spend 3 trillion shillings. We only spent 2.5 trillion because we didn't pay the pending bills that we had assigned.
Okay. It's interesting that you mentioned that. And before I go to one of the first orders that was made by former President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2019, let's look at, when you talk about MSMEs, you want to make it sound like some swanky office somewhere where there's somebody at the reception and roses on the till. No. We're talking about the people who've struggled and put forth a tender bid to supply newspapers,
water,
desks, paper,
cleaning services.
Thank you. Cleaning services. People who've then gone to the bank and mortgaged everything to be able to get this money to then be able to do this job in the hopes that you will get paid. That money has never come in. Those are the folks that we're talking about. Yep. It's people who are supplying tomatoes and onions to your kitchens in the departments, at the counties, at the national government. It's people who are supplying pens, cups. It's when you had an event as ministry, somebody came and they did T-shirts and caps. That is what we're talking about.
Somebody catered for an event.
Absolutely.
Provided lunch, provided tea.
We're not talking about these big ticket items like building a road or buildings or whatever. No. We're talking about things like that, all right? So before we want to think that it's something huge and grandiose, it isn't. It is individuals, the mother, the father, the whomever, who said, I can do that, all right? 2019, June 1st, President Uhuru Kenyatta directed all ministries to settle all national government payments that do not have audit queries on or for the end of the current financial year, which closes on the 30th of June.
2019.
This was in 2019. Okay.
So that's a 2018-2019 budget.
Exactly. What year are we in now?
2023, post-COVID.
Thank you very much.
This is before COVID.
Okay. That was in May. In December of the same year, Uhuru said, all of you cabinet secretaries, do not go on holiday until you have settled all pending bills of 51.2 billion shillings. Don't go for Christmas. Do not book that. Do not book that flight.
Down a memo which is signed.
Yes. Do not book that flight. You are not going anywhere until you pay these bills. That was before Christmas. Twice in 1 year now.
2019.
Okay.
Right.
Now, we are now going to settle all pending bills by... Sorry, let the thing open. It has refused to open.
Up there, it's there. That's the 2019 one.
That's the 2019 one. Okay, thank you.
Ministries, agencies, ignore.
Now, 2021, let's take some steps, some years forward.
Right.
Ministries, agencies, ignored Uhuru's order on pending bills. Whether they ignored or they didn't find the money, we are not quite sure. However, it was during the unveiling of the 2021-2022 budget in Parliament on the 10th of June. At that time, Treasury CS Ukuri Atani gave agencies until the end of that month, July, to settle all bills. He threatened to withhold funds to agencies and county governments that defy the directive. So they've been playing this cat and mouse game, at least for the last 2 years, until 2021, I beg your pardon. And they were still, issuing out threats. Pay by. If you do not pay
if you
by,
don't pay,
such and such
you're
will
not
happen.
going on holiday.
Now, this
you
one
will not go for Christmas. You work until you pay.
That was in 2019.
And if you don't pay in 2021, we're being told now, if you don't pay, by the way,
we will not give you money at the counties. Okay?
Right.
Now, the one I remember, even without having to go into the archives, 2021 September. Uhuru Kenyatta, 2021 June, Madaraka Day. Uhuru Kenyatta stood on the podium and he said, by October 31st, all pending bills must be paid. October 31st. What is today?
Today is the 28th of June, 2023.
Thank you very much. Those pending bills were not paid. So I don't know if now...
They increased, actually.
Yep.
they went higher than that. The debt for ministries and departments at that time excluded 100 billion shillings. So they were looking at around that 505 billion shillings, even at that point, conclusively, national government and county government.
Finish that statement.
Right, this
the
one
debt
here.
for the ministries?
The debt for the ministries and departments excluded 100.15 billion that was considered as ineligible after the verification of pending bills. So this is my issue with this current committee today. It has already been done. Audit queries have taken place
more than once.
More than once. Verification has taken place more than once. You know what the numbers are.
May I add to it?
Yeah.
These things have been audited also.
Thank you. It's already been
The Auditor
done.
General has gone through these things with a tooth comb.
Yep.
What we get in the media snippets of what they have done, but it's thorough, it's detailed. Even questionable invoicing, they have come up, they have told us. So the question one asks is, so what exactly is this committee going to do?
That is what I'm asking. What exactly will happen over the next 1 year?
And this thing they're going to do, it's going to take place in a year. What is it?
And allow me to add something to that. You see this verification that's taking place? You see this shouting that we've been doing about pay pending bills?
Yep.
2019 pay, 2020 pay, 2021 pay. Remember COVID came 2020, ate up a chunk of our time till 2022. And then came 2023, pending bills, pay, don't pay, ignore, don't ignore. Government was still issuing tenders for people to do work.
Yep.
Those people who did that work in this time are adding to this list of pending bills.
Which means
even this fancy committee that's going to sit for 365
We'll
days
have
as
another
they are
pending
working,
bill.
there's still more pending. Even to pay them will be a pending bill.
The question that was asked earlier by Eric, which to me is germane to this issue, is, and do you actually tailored and fitted in nicely, it was a good patchwork. How do you explain a situation where you have a process and the process exists because it has been budgeted for, which means money has been put aside for it? That there are people who are claiming and seeking to have their bill settled. That's why it's pending. It's a bill that hasn't been paid. Eric's question, where did the money go? Because it was budgeted for. It existed. And why we asking the question is, no one is telling us the money wasn't paid, but it's sitting, it's nestled here. It's not there,
It's
clean,
not in a suspense
clear.
account somewhere because they didn't find
It's not there.
Exactly.
So where is it?
And even compounding that a little bit more is that in every document that you will have, this is even basic accounting.
Yep.
In every document that you will have, it is related to a project. It's a project account, is it not?
It is.
Yes. So in the document, you look at the cost of the project and you will know that it was for 1, 2, 3, supply of something. You can see the thing that was supplied. You can see it.
Or if it was consumed, there's at least a receipt that these things were received.
You can't actually bill them. You can't send your invoice if you don't have those details.
Thank you. So
And somebody
the
has
job
signed
was
to confirm receipt.
it. And Eric, in government, we know. Yesterday we had an example here. We know in the receipt of those things, it is not one signature.
No.
It is a trail.
Multiplicity.
And it's all in writing.
It's all in writing.
Atumelete.
No. You sign it.
Do.
So it was delivered, it was done.
There's a chain of command. It's not, it moves up. If you work for government, you'll know. Files move. There's where they start. They go to the next, it's known, they go to the next stage. So if you've done anything with government, you ask, where exactly is this file? Because it follows a process.
Yep.
Now, by the time it becomes a pending bill, nothing has gone through those processes.
A lot. And just like you're saying, Ndu, by the time we go to tendering, a lot has happened before this.
Yes.
Let's look at this mosquito thingy majiki that we are talking about now with the Global Fund, right? And we're told by Dr. Andrew Mulwa about that entire process. There's a work plan that's developed. There's a development plan that's done. There's a procurement plan that's done. All these things are done at ministry level. Then they're taken to the PS. The PS forwards to the Treasury. The Treasury has a conversation with the donor. They look at the documentation and they say, fine, take it to tender. They give it to KEMSA. KEMSA then prepares the tender documents.
Based on all these, the aforementioned details.
Yes. And it
So
all
everything is in
began
tandem.
with the
Yes.
donor saying, this is the amount of money that I have.
Yes.
Okay? So this is the basics of project. It starts with planning, you budget for it, you finance it, you execute it.
Yes.
So there is planning that takes place, and this is what happens in the budget making process. This cycle that begins in November, it is when planning is taking place and budgeting. And those state departments going to KICC and sitting before the National Treasury and saying, these are our plans for the next financial year. This is how much it would cost. And that's why we will be requesting you to finance us to the tune of this much. The National Treasury looks at it and amends. It goes to Parliament. Parliament looks at the figures, and Parliament then allocates and says, for that project of supplying water to this particular institution, we are allocating 20 million shillings. That is passed, it becomes an appropriation bill, right? It is signed into law, an appropriation act. The money has been assigned to the supply of water to that office.
The money exists for paying this vendor.
There. Then there's somebody in that office who has the authority to incur expenditure. Who is the originator of the whole plan from the very beginning. Now they look at it and they say, all right, I have been allocated X amount of money for water. These are the specifications for the water. Then now I can afford 20 dozen bottles of water. Let's go to tender for 20 dozen bottles of water, because I am sure I have the authority to purchase 20 dozen bottles of water. They tender. They identify supplier. Supplier brings 20 dozen bottles of water. Wanakonywa, wanaoga nayo, whatever they do, pick a chai, whatever. They spend 20 dozen bottles of water. This person with the authority to incur expenditure, why do they not sign for the money to be paid? If there's any verification that needs to happen, it's just going back and asking who was supposed to incur expenditure. Why did they not incur expenditure? Don't start saying, is this bill real or not?
The money intended for this was expenditured. Yes, because for
How
money,
was it expenditured?
This same person who has the authority, if money leaves, they have given authority. So, what did they give authority for?
This is it. And we can just look, it's very simple to me. This now fancy committee for sitting for 1 year to verify all of these things is another waste of time, and you're putting people into more distress and turmoil, not paying them money that is due for a job that they did. It has already been verified. I'm sorry. By the time it is a bill, if you sit in a restaurant today and somebody brings you a bill, what does that mean? You have consumed.
Yes.
There's nothing like, let me go and... Now, actually, you know what needs to happen?
Let me confirm that you actually supplied me with the food.
And that you brought me food to this table. Are you kidding? And you have eaten and you don't belly full.
You know the process in detail. They give you a menu.
Yes.
So that you can choose
select what you want
to eat and what you can afford to pay for.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And you order, it comes to you, you consume, and then you want us to now come and start asking which waiter served, where was the bill in the kitchen, who did you see seeing me eat?
And now you're actually now bringing in other people. Oh, this is a person who's the chairman of the Potato Suppliers Association of Kenya to come and see whether the potatoes that you claim to have eaten is actually supplied in this country. Why will we have engineers in this committee? Why do we have lawyers in this committee? To do what?
To do what?
This is just another window dressing exercise, and we're saying it directly straight up here to you, government. Oh yes, cabinet you met yesterday, yet cabinet you created this committee. Stop playing with people's lives. These are people with families, these are people's livelihoods, and these are people are owed by government. Go back and find out who did not pay, where did their money go to. Deal with those ones. But for crying out loud,
pay these people.
Pay people who supplied you.
Come on.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
You have been saving and are now seeking a safe and secure investment for a profitable return. For an investment that is cushioned from inflation, call 0719-034-550. With a deposit of as little as 250,000, you can now start collecting rental income from your unit at Elmer Estate in Kasarani by Centum Real Estate. It's that time again when we get to gather around and marvel at the great engineering, raw power, finesse, and sharing our round motor love for motoring at the annual Digger Motor Show 2023. From car lovers, bike enthusiasts, spare part dealers, insurance, as well as asset financiers and more, this year's Digger Motor Show will be one for the books. We're talking a whole 4-day event from Thursday 20th to Sunday 23rd at KICC Grounds, Nairobi, where we will have something for everyone, so you better not miss out. Get the family, bring your friends, and share in the joys that will give you lasting memories and an experience you're bound to not forget. For more information or participation, contact Caroline on 0723-803601 or email sinyandiaka@standardmedia.co.ke. Digger Motor Show 2023 is brought to you by Standard Group and Digger Motors and is powered by Spice FM. You have been saving and are now seeking a safe and secure investment for a profitable return. For an investment that is cushioned from inflation, call 0740-400-215. You can now start collecting rental income from your unit at 1255 Palm Ridge in Kilifi by Vipingo Development.
A bit on the chill this morning in Nairobi at 12, highs of 22 today. We'll see highs of 25 in a mostly sunny Nakuru at 14. It's 14 and sunny in Nyeri, highs of 21. 23 will be the high. It's partly sunny in Eldoret. At 22, the sun is up in Mombasa, highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 29 as well in Malindi, where it's cloudy at 26. It's sunny at 19 in Kisumu, highs of 28, and 28 will also be the high in the sunny Kakamega. At 19, Kampala is sunny, highs of 27, and 29 will be the high in Dar es Salaam, where it's sunny at 24. It's 6 degrees and partly cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 17, and we'll see highs of 29 in a partly cloudy Lagos at 25. It's 21 and cloudy in Kinshasa, highs of 30 down to lows of 21.
When the engine revs, will you be ready to get all that petrol head enthusiasm at this year's annual Digger Motor Show? Well, you better belt up and make your way to KICC from the 20th to the 23rd of July 2023 for a wholesome 4-day event. Come and join car lovers, bike enthusiasts, spare part dealers, insurance, as well as asset financiers and more for what will be an unforgettable experience by far. We are going all out to make it a great show for you and the whole family with something for everyone, so you better not miss out. For more information or participation, contact Caroline on 0723-803601 or email sinyandiaka@standardmedia.co.ke. Digger Motor Show 2023 is brought to you by Standard Group and Digger Motors and is powered by Spice FM.
All right, traffic not posing a problem today. That challenge is not going to be experienced as we're in holiday and most folks are off the roads. There might be no fuel to be on the roads in a couple of days, but all right. A little bit of traffic as you're getting onto the expressway in Westlands. I don't know what is holding folks up there, but you're all right. The Northern Bypass, folks have decided to be out on the road today, but we'll probably see that fizzle out as we get closer to mid-morning. Everywhere else, free and clear. As you're going in and out of the city, you will not have a challenge. Let's talk, however. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Oh, I've got to remind you, coming on Mombasa Road, remember that lower road is being worked on. So that closes off some traffic inbound and also from the Southern Bypass overpass as you're coming then onto Mombasa Road. So, Spice FM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there as we keep things moving this Wednesday.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 20 minutes to 8. The conversation continues here in the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation on Spice FM, on KTN Home, live streaming on YouTube and Facebook, Spice FM KE. So yesterday the cabinet met, and yesterday was World MSMEs Day. And when the cabinet met yesterday, they approved the formation of a committee to verify all pending bills. The Pending Bills Verification Committee is tasked with the auditing of liabilities for the period between 2005 and 2022. The bills are said to be: the national government owes suppliers between 2005 and June last year 481 billion shillings, while counties owe suppliers 159.9 billion shillings. This committee that has been established will consist the Attorney General, people from the State Departments for Roads, the State Department for Public Works, the State Department for Housing and Urban Development, and the Public Procurement of a Regulatory Authority. Other members will be the ESCC, the Law Society of Kenya, the Institute of Engineers of Kenya, and the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya to be part of it. Their job will be to look at all those pending bills, verify and find out those that are genuine, and those that are genuine will then be paid. And then by the end of the year, after 1 year, which is June next year, this committee will present its final report on how the government shall never ever find itself in a situation like this where it has bills that have not been paid.
Okay. I have a question, another question.
Ask.
Pending bills, were they allocated some kind of money during this budget that has just been read?
This one? Every budget, my friend, has an allocation. Not only budget, supplementary budget. Supplementary budget 1 of 2023, this year, submitted by Professor Jogona Dongo, had some 60 billion shillings to go towards paying pending bills.
Thank you very much.
That money has been expended. Okay?
However, if money was set aside in this budget that has just been read for the year 2023 to 2024, and now you've instituted a committee that is going to do some kind of, audit verification, bills verification, etc., etc., where then will that allocation go?
What they are saying is that within this 1 year, they are verifying and they're paying, verifying, paying. By June next year, the final report will be, this is what we have done.
No.
And these are the recommendations going forward.
Okay. I have a recommendation that you don't even need a year to be able to figure out. Here's the recommendation. By the time you have planned and budgeted, and then you have invited bids, and you then award a bid, and then the person does the job, they finish and present an invoice. My recommendation would be pay them. And then you don't have to do this whole circus of activities and verification and payment, and then paying some other folks to come and sit around round tables every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday of the week and get paid hefty allowances to do this thing. That's my recommendation. This recommendation that they're going to give after 1 year is actually neither here nor there. Just do the thing that a process requires. Follow those steps, and guess what? You'll be golden, and you don't have to do this. The money that has been allocated to these projects, guess what? Imagine a world where money that has been allocated to a project is actually paid to all the elements of that project. Imagine, it's like walking on rainbows and
the
eating
project
gold
is
dust.
executed as per design.
It's like you're living in heaven. You wouldn't have to start making recommendations and sound philosophical. You just have to do the thing and go through the processes, and then we move. What are we doing?
Sometimes, who wrote the book Cry My Beloved Country? Alan Patton.
Alan Patton.
Yes.
Yeah. You know the movie.
No. Whenever people talk about the power that the Constitution gives the citizenry of this country, it's mere words. I doubt if it has actually sunk or it's been fully understood what it is that is meant by people having the power. You see, the things that we speak of now as simply going awry are a culmination of things that have been happening with successive governments. And even when you have governments where you have the president trying as much as he possibly can to remove some of the rot that has been part and parcel of the system. As the saying goes in Kenya, grand corruption fights back, I would say grandly. But it fights back because it's become a way of life, an acceptable way of life. But we accompany it with the hypocrisy of declaring and denouncing it in public while participating in it in our own little way. But the things that we do are excusable because we do them and they're not as big or as grand as what some other people are doing. But when you look at the words that are uttered, the sheer volume of the words that are uttered in defense and in compliance with supporting the downtrodden we have in society, those words alone, if they could be monetized, would have removed all these social issues that we speak about in the country. But what we see is that the more words are uttered, the worse the plight of our citizenry gets. It's not as though anything improves. And yet, there's always one plan or another, ostensibly, to help remove our people from the plight they're in. And yet, to a casual observer, that plight worsens. It does not, it's not as though you find, whew, there's relief here.
Yeah.
No, it worsens. With every scheme which sounds good, you pause, take a deep breath. When you exhale, you suddenly find the situation that was previously there, even with the promise, has gotten worse. How do we get out of this moribund? How do we get out of this situation? This hole that seems to be getting deeper and deeper, and it's deeper. And we're in the hole, and some people keep insisting on digging it more, and we are all getting into it deeper and deeper and deeper. What do we need to do here?
These are games.
I think it is.
You know, Ndu, just remind us again. You know, when we talk about suppliers, there are people who think, all right, the big guy who got the big contract to do the big road, the big guy who got the big contract to do the non-existent stadia, all right? There are those ones, fine.
Yeah.
But then, a majority, just like were given figures. Yesterday, I was interviewing the principal secretary for MSMEs on KTN. And she said, this is the Ministry of MSMEs. 98% of the businesses that you see in this country are MSMEs. A vast majority of those MSMEs are actually in the micro. Those micro, the ones that make below 5 million shillings annual turnover, those are many. The small ones, they are many. These are the ones that supply government. Like you said, supplying those basic things, supplying tea, supplying, there's a meeting somewhere and you're supplying that meeting. There's
it's not complete.
Water in offices.
But look at it like this. Break it down. It is not even complete. When you look at the tea being served in government offices, for example, you have one person who's been given the tender to supply milk.
Yep.
You have one person being given the tender to supply sugar. You have somebody who's bringing tea leaves or tea bags. Those are three different people. And it is a faceless Kenyan.
Yep.
That's the truth. It is somebody who said, you know what, let me try my hand at this. And then they do the due diligence. They pay the 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 shillings that a tender requires you to do. You do that, you pay. Meanwhile, their offices are receiving hundreds of thousands of shillings in tender fees. Yes, tender fees. All right? This happens. These are the people. How much is the money that this is for me the painful thing. How much is the money that we are talking about that these people are being owed? If it is a lot, the person who's supplying milk on a monthly basis or supplied hats for an event, T-shirts for some conference, the pens that you did your thing for whatever department was
labeled pens, branded pens,
the
branded T-shirts, branded coffees. You see them in all these meetings, and you see, it's a big meeting, it's a presidential event. So Kenya is hosting this big. Somebody supplied all those small things that you're seeing. Banners there. There's somebody who just did the stage and the lighting. Somebody who's just done the supply of water for the delegates.
Exactly.
Somebody who just printed the lanyards and the name badges
for the conference.
He's
waiting for their money.
Small, and they're waiting for their money.
Do you know how much we are being told the profits that these people are making on top of the money that they went and took loans to supply? 100,000 shillings, 50,000 shillings, 20,000 shillings is the money that they're looking for on top of what they paid. How many people's lives have you plummeted into aggravating poverty because they took a facility to supply government, whether it was at county level, whether it was at national level, then you don't pay them. They go into debt. Auctioneers are brought for them. Somebody in Moranga died. Another one killed himself because he's gone into a depression because government has not paid him. This is not fairy tales. It's not folklore. This is actual stuff that's happening to people. You put them into debt. They're paying loans that they didn't have to. They did not have to take. They took them because they knew that you were going to pay them after a period of time. These are the people that we're talking about that you want to now put into another 365 days of agony. And then even that, it is not guaranteed because you will come up with some story about how they cannot or should not be paid. For somebody to realize a 25,000 shilling profit on top of hundreds of thousands of shillings that they borrowed to do a job, and you finish, as we say in my language, you've eaten, you've cleaned your mouth. Then now to pay the person now is a problem. A teeth-pulling exercise. It is those Kenyans that we're talking about. Not even the ones, like you say, who are building the big buildings, but even them, how about a case for them as well?
They have also
they have also paid. They have also taken facilities.
If they have delivered, they ought
owed
to be paid.
They should be paid.
If they have delivered, they ought to be paid. And there are institutions in every government, there's levels and layers of verification, of authentication, and this happens. Fine. If you do not trust your people, government is a going concern. Let's remind the cabinet that, okay? Government lives in perpetuity. The government of the Republic of Kenya is not dependent on who's in office.
Come on.
The government of the Republic of Kenya is an entity that is continuous
and it
in
moves.
existence.
And it will outlive every president who is currently there and every future president. It will outlive all of them.
As far as we are concerned, the government of the Republic of Kenya has conducted a verification exercise on pending bills.
It's already done.
There are various reports that are there. If you don't trust those various reports, why should we trust yours?
You. Exactly. And I want to disabuse us of this notion, because there's some people who are saying, oh, the issue might be because your documents were not complete, your invoice did not have this. It would not be pending if your documentation had a problem. By the time it is a pending bill, they have gone through it.
You have submitted everything.
You've submitted everything.
You're waiting to be paid.
That's why it's pending. Pending, by definition, means it is waiting. It is waiting for payment. If your documentation had an issue, they would not accept it and put it in that place now when it becomes a pending bill. It would be somewhere else. And that is why audit queries have already been done. Remember what we said, 100.15 billion shillings was moved aside in 2021 because there were audit queries. And they said, hey, there's something here. And remember, we think that an audit query is just money. No, audit query always has something to do with an invoice. Maybe it doesn't have the proper date. Maybe it was not accompanied by a delivery. Something didn't happen. All of those are audit queries. It's not just about money minus 5.
Or those signed for delivery and those not delivery.
All of those are audit queries.
Every government process is detailed. You don't get into engagement with the government if you don't understand the process.
Neither can Siti be sleeping in his house as the director of whatever, and then Ndu calls him and say, oh, by the way, boss, I delivered. Then Siti said, oh, you delivered? Okay, no problem. No.
Nitakutumia pesa.
Akuna. It is documented and not one person signs. So, sorry, by the time karaoke, it is a bill pending, it has been verified. This business that they're doing with this committee is a waste of time. It is aggravation of an already painful situation for many Kenyans. And I'm going to even ask the question, how many more Kenyans do you want to kill themselves from depression because you've not paid them so that they can realize 25,000 shillings?
Because this time now we are doing it better. Okay? So what we've decided, we're also going to bring in the private sector and professional associations, the Law Society of Kenya, the Engineers of Kenya, the Institute of Certified Public, so that they can also come here and we can verify these bills together.
My mother used to
absolute nonsense.
My mother used to say, if you've not taken a bath and you want to go and wear clean clothes, it still remains that you have not taken a bath. If you want to go and bring all the clean people, if you like, go and bring audit query people from London, it still remains the same thing, that there's something that you're trying to stop from happening that you need to fix. And in this case, fixing it is paying Kenyans the money that you owe them.
Why go through this very elaborate charade when we know that there are government departments and government units who do this very thing? That's what they exist for. Now, you want to say that when you set this committee and you bring all these people plus their cousins,
minus the Auditor General,
yes, you suddenly are going to provide us with a better outcome than the one which has been provided by people whose sole mandate in government is to do this thing that you're claiming you want to do. This very same thing.
Exactly. What did you say? If you need to come and verify again, the question is then why should Kenyans believe you?
Actually, the question...
We have a report. We have reports. That report that said there's 100 billion shillings here that we're not going to pay first. We're first going to pay all these others as we sort out this. So if that report exists, Why don't you rely on that report?
Yes.
Why are we going to rely on this?
On another report.
Why? And this is not about, it is this handshake government, or it is now Kenya Kwanza, it is Azimio. This is not even about that. We are saying, the government itself is saying, we are going all the way back to 2005. So let's go all the way back to 2005. All these characters who are in government, in national leadership today, have come across government at one time or another since 2005.
Since that is the
all
point.
of them.
Yes.
The president was a minister, was a deputy president. The attorney general was an MP, was a speaker of the National Assembly. All these people we're talking about, the leaders of Jubilee, the leaders of ODM, the leaders of Wiper were there. They were vice president, they were prime minister, they were brother to the president. They were there. So it's not about politics. It's about people's livelihoods. And let's remember, it is micro enterprises. It is small businesses that they did something. They supplied government. Government went to Parliament and sought approval for a budget. Parliament created a budget, allocated money for certain project. You went ahead and tendered for that project. Somebody supplied you. You did not pay them. You come back to Parliament and say, oh, by the way, give me money. You see, last year I didn't pay that guy.
Let me pay that guy.
Give me money so that I can pay that guy. What are you talking about? So even as all these people are here, those who are in Parliament, Kina Rigathi Gachagua, they have questions to answer. Why were you approving budgets that have pending bills and
Eric,
not questioning?
Eric, when we had these supplementary budgets in the Uhuru government, among the things we were doing was to sort out these very same bills.
Same stories.
Supplementary budget means money is allocated. Okay, so again, Eric's question, where did the money go to?
Where did the money go? And
because
that's the question nobody is asking.
The debts are the constant. The money which has been allocated keeps evaporating.
Then, you know what? Actually, as I think about it.
This is a grand theft scheme.
It is. That's what I was just going to say. It's robbery. In fact, with violence. Because people are dying. You know what? Because you have budgeted. CS Dongo just read another budget. There is an allocation for payment of pending bills in this budget.
Yes, there is.
Last year, there was an allocation for pending bills in the 2022-2023 fiscal year.
Yes.
There was an allocation.
Before that as well. And the year before that as well.
Now, mind you, this is apart from the money that each project had already budgeted for these things that we're talking about. Because if you want to do the due diligence, go to each department. They'll say, yes, we needed newspaper, we needed milk, we needed tea, blah, 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 all of these things. They gave it to somebody. This is apart from that money. The very simple question, which people should be called to. In fact, that committee should not be asking whether these bills are to be verified. They should be asking, where did the money go?
AIE holders are the ones that should be answering questions.
Come on.
An AIE holder, so you authorized procurement. Why didn't you pay?
Why didn't you pay?
Simple question.
First of all, the people who are owed money, are they also going to bring them in to tell us that they're
one
owed
by
money?
one.
You know why I'm asking this question? There's a likelihood that some people are being paid twice or thrice.
Like I said, the supplementary budgets that we've had this year, we have just the third supplementary budget has been passed, okay? They have money for pending bills. Who's getting paid? How have their bills been verified? Are they going through this process of verification, or have they just passed did they pass go? And collected 200?
They collected 200 twice.
They collected. Not twice, even thrice.
Because the first supplementary budget has some 60 billion shillings to go towards paying pending bills. That money, when we are closing the financial year on Friday, it's not going to come back at, by the way, there was no absorption of this money.
No, it's not there.
It's gone.
So where did it go?
Who's been paid? And how come Nyeri, who supplied pens to a conference, is not getting paid?
And yet other people have been paid.
Yeah. How did you select the person that you've paid and not Nyeri?
You know, the question I have to ask is, what is the relevance of a cabinet? But that's a discussion for another day.
That's a big one, actually. Well, keep it here for more conversations. A very good morning. Sorry, it's Idul Adha, but it's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The news at the top of the hour on Vibes Radio. The news at the top of the hour on Vibes Radio.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Obaga. Education CS Ezekiel Mashogu is today expected to officially open the 46th Kesha Annual Conference that's ongoing in Mombasa County. Among the issues raised is the shortage of teachers, especially in public schools. Kesha Chairman Kahi Ndimilu says that despite the government allocating a budget to hire teachers, the exact number of those needed in secondary schools wasn't included.
Tunaangazia sasa kitengo cha junior secondary, lakini jua kuwa secondary schools peke yake tulikuwa na shortfall ya karibu 1116 walimu, na junior secondary inakuja pia na tatizo lake ambalo pia linataka walimu wao. Sasa katika kuandika kazi ya walimu, tungependa kusi serikali wasizingatie tu kitengo cha junior secondary, wajue pia normal secondary schools which are turning senior pia zinahitaji walimu.
The teachers have further urged the Ministry of Education to provide security measures in boarding schools by attaching police officers to man the institutions.
Tusiangalie shule kuwa ni mahali ambapo pako safe kwa wanafunzi, hakuna kitu kinaweza tokea. Hizi shule zote na hasa shule ambazo ni za malezi, kwa maoni yetu zipewe ulinzi wa serikali. Wasiwe tu na wale security wao, hata wale ambao wako armed wanatakana wakuwe pale. Tungependa kuhimiza serikali kuhakikisha kuwa sehemu zetu zote kuna usalama, ili watoto wasikose kuwa madarasani, walimu wasikose kufunza kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa usalama.
More than 900 teachers are attending the conference. NHIF Acting CEO Samson Kuhora now says that the state conducted external benchmarking before proposing to increase monthly contributions to 2.75%. Speaking on a local TV station, Kuhora noted that the state compared NHIF's data with that of other health agencies in Tanzania, Ghana and Nigeria before settling on the 2.75% recommended deductions.
We did an actuarial analysis of how much it would cost to offer the essential benefit package and compared to the current contributions, which range between 5% for the lowest income earners to 1.12% for the population that is earning more than 100,000. And from our weighted matrix, the suggestion was that the equalizing effect was to offer at a rate of 2.75%. And that's how we arrived at this figure. This figure is expected to generate the revenues that would finance social health insurance to offer the essential benefit package that has been suggested by government.
On his part, Seme MP James Nyikal noted that the justification for the proposed deductions is acceptable as long as Kenyans get their money's worth.
Well, the justification, I think, is accepted. Me, not just the benchmarking, but more importantly, they have done actual study which has indicated what they need to offer the essential package. To that extent, it's okay. As to whether people can afford it, whether it is high or low, what really is important here is how it is used. People pay so much in health, so that if they are paying that much, but they get as much full cover, then that is justified.
KMPDU Deputy Secretary General Dennis Miskela, however, questioned how the recently proposed NHIF tax deductions came to be, since the union's members were allegedly not consulted during the process.
The question of NHIF is not about the amount of water in the basket, but rather the bucket is leaking severally, and you don't just fill it up and it will leak some more. It's about inefficiencies in the organization that if it was to be organized well, then we won't have to tax people more or deduct more, but rather just improving on what they already have. So as workers, we believe that deducting more will not solve the problem of the inefficiencies at NHIF.
The Cabinet has approved the establishment of a special committee on pending bills. According to a dispatch from the meeting, the pending bills verification committee will be tasked with the auditing of liabilities for the period between 2005 and 2022. In a meeting chaired by President William Ruto at State House, the Cabinet noted that pending bills remain a sticky issue. The national government pending bills since June 2005 to June 2022 stand at 481 billion shillings, while counties owe 159.9 billion shillings. This event comes as the President has cleared his advisors, Monica Juma, National Security Advisor, David D, Chairperson of Council of Economic Advisors, Harriet Chigai, Women Rights, and UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala to be attending Cabinet meetings. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Obaga.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Not much happening in the city this morning. A little bit of traffic we saw on the northern bypass today, and I think that will just continue as folks are getting in and out of Nairobi, coming back or going to where they can go for the day. Some happening on North Airport Road, going out towards Outer Ring, but it can all be managed from what we see. It's looking all right in different parts of the city today. Seeing a little bit of it on Mweki Road in Kasarani. Not quite sure why that hold up is there, but traffic will not be a problem today. Let's just keep an eye and see what happens later. Let's talk on Spice FM. KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 7 minutes after 8. How are you doing? Good morning. Have you gone to colgate.ke? Just go to colgate.ke, because once there, you will get details of what we've been talking about. And this is what Colgate is doing to make sure that we're spreading smiles across the country. There are many children in this country who don't have access to safe drinking water. And Colgate is saying, we want to help at least many communities get safe drinking water. They are building 30 water wells in this particular project, and which will benefit more than 150,000 people. What they are telling you to do is walk into any Naivas, because they've partnered with Naivas. Every tube of Colgate that you buy at Naivas goes towards this particular project. So let's do it. It's a good thing. Our next guest is in the studio. Dr. Okoh is the party leader of the Third Way Alliance. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric Latiff.
How you doing?
Very well. Trying to. I mean, I'm still...
You're trying to do very well.
I'm trying to survive.
Okay.
And to think about the implications of Finance Bill 2023, then the budget, and also looking at the political situation in the country, where we are headed. Yeah, there's a lot to think about and to try to stay afloat.
That's true.
Yeah.
CT has the day's proverb.
I do.
The proverbs this week are from Chad.
Yes, they are from the country.
Has he finished reading my book, the book I gifted him?
No, I haven't finished reading it.
You see, there are so many proverbs there.
It joined the queue. There were 3 other books I was reading, but I read books intermittently.
Yeah.
He picks one, he reads 3 pages.
It's not really, I pick up the other one and read. But by next week I should have finished reading it. It's an interesting book.
Yes.
Very good.
Arrogance burnt the chief's compound. That's the proverb for the day.
Arrogance burnt the chief's compound.
Yes.
Dr. Okoh, what do you think the Chadians
So what I think it probably calls for a degree of humility in leadership and service, and that should you not show the people that humility and service, then they take power into them. So actually, in the context of our political governance or constitution, if you read Article 1 of the Constitution of Kenya, it says all sovereign authority vests in the people of Kenya. They can exercise it directly or indirectly through their elected officials. Now, when the elected officials do not exercise that power to serve the people, then the people can take over that power unto themselves. And I guess that's what the proverb means. I don't know. I'm only contextualizing it to her.
Pride comes before a fall.
Yes.
Pride comes before a fall. All right. Daktari, a day before the election, you spoke about what you were going to do at the ballot.
And bring it out.
And you tweeted. And you said, tomorrow I will cast my vote.
Yes.
you can be sure it won't be for a candidate being pushed by current administration. It's an opportunity to turn a new chapter in the political history of our country.
Yes.
After almost 60 years of dominance by two families, their end comes tomorrow.
That's true. And I still stand by it. And as a matter of fact, I think their end actually has already come to an end. And we'll discuss the subject today, which for me I find very intriguing. Many people have asked me, including some guys from the House on the Hill, that we are tuning in. We want to hear this. Why do you say Ruto's presidency is a blessing
for Kenya's politics?
Although you missed one word there.
In disguise.
Yes.
No, we removed it particularly with particular reason. So why are we disguising this blessing?
So can I repeat it on air that actually is a blessing in disguise in the political history journey of this country, and I'll explain why.
Okay. So let's go back first to August.
Yes.
So who did you mean you were not going to vote for?
I wasn't going to vote for Raila Amolo Odinga because Raila Amolo Odinga was sneaking through the back door of the presidency of Uhuru Kenyatta, and for me it was going to be a continuation of that dominance and the fake dynastic belief that Kenya has dynasties, which of course, even if you look at the definition of what a dynasty is, we are nowhere closer to that. But in terms of our political history, in terms of dominance, say, by certain regions, certain tribes, certain individuals, even though they may hate each other one minute, the next minute they come together. Because I've also tweeted, there's also another tweet I put in yesterday where I brought in what Musalia Mudavadi said is in 2021, Ndindi Nyoro, about the government of Uhuru Kenyatta, Wetangula, and I think Kindiki Kithure as well. So you can see the way in which Kenyans are being played politically, so that people who identify what their interests are can always gang up, and this is why I was saying, that end has to come to, that arrangement
era has to come to an end.
That era has to come to an end, and it's true. I think it has come to an end, as you can see, and I also said that William Ruto's presidency opens an opportunity for anybody else, and I'll explain in detail why I say that.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So let me give a historical perspective. Why I like to discuss this subject today, that Ruto's presidency is a blessing in disguise. At independence, we had people who are called founding fathers of this nation, although some of them actually did not even fight for the freedom of this country and the independence of this country. For example, Jomo Kenyatta never fought for the independence and freedom of Kenya. As a matter of fact, people have called him a political conman over the years, because he pretended to be a Mau Mau leader, but he wasn't really a Mau Mau leader. The true Mau Mau leaders are the Dedan Kimathis and the rest. But anyway, be that as it may, out of the magnanimity of someone like Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, he had been given the opportunity to actually form first government of Kenya as a prime minister. But he said, there are 6 fellows who are being jailed in Kapenguria. They become the symbol almost of that liberation.
The
resistance. So he said, no, I'll not form the government until Kenyatta and the other guys are released. Once they were released, Odinga thought, let this guy form the government. But we were playing into a trap as a country, which colonialists also had a hand in it. And you see, the first thing they did was to make these promises of, we'll end the disease, ignorance, and poverty. And remember, the question of land was now almost forgotten. The displacement of this country started in 1965 in central Kenya, where the agitation for independence started from the question of land. And so that's why today you find Kikuyus having a problem in Mpeketoni, Molo, Rift Valley, and all that. So that dominance continued for about how many years was Kenyatta president? 14 years. Then, of course, Moi took over. When Moi took over, we're talking about at least 40 years, 24 years of presidency.
40 years, 24 years.
40 years of politics, and about 24 years of president. Yeah.
Right.
So that dominance continued. Then there was a slight break in between, with the Kibaki administration. But Kibaki administration also, remember, he was the longest serving vice president of Moi for nearly 11 years, if I'm not wrong. So in a way you could say, these guys were still one and the same. And in 2002, when we voted for Kibaki, it wasn't really about the popularity of Kibaki per se, but it was more a resistance against the imposition by President Moi on the people of Kenya in position of Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, so there was that resistance. But I think now came the era of Uhuru Kenyatta. Again, we could see is a continuation actually of that from the Kenya. So we had Kenyatta 1, we had Moi, then we had Kibaki, and then Kenyatta 2 coming. Now, let me come to the topic. So if you look at all those eras, political eras in Kenya, except for the Kenyatta era.
Which Kenyatta?
Kenyatta 1. Except for the Kenyatta 1 era, President William Ruto has served in both eras of Moi, Kibaki, and Kenyatta 2. Yeah? That's Uhuru. And in very, very senior positions of influence as a minister or even as just the people, the go-betweens. If you go back to 1992, the YK 92, all that. So these are very influential. Yeah, exactly. So you cannot say, just like the same way today, any president, even in Kenya today, even like say William Ruto, they are those influencers, those powerful people. So they can bring change if they really wanted to bring change. And then of course, what's the most important for me is that in the era of Kenyatta 2, Uhuru Kenyatta, he deputized for 10 years the presidency of Kenyatta. A presidency that for me I think is the most disastrous in the history of political history in Kenya. We're talking about huge national debt, talking about mega corruption scandals and all that. And even today, the current administration confirms because of that presidency, that's why we are in the problem, in the deep hole we are today, economically and all that. So they all confirm that probably was the worst presidency in the history of Kenya. But now, coming to the topic of today, which is that I think William Ruto's presidency, I do believe, is a blessing in disguise for this country. Because if we go back to his participation politically, this is not a person who you can say does not know the problems in this country or is incapable of fixing the problems in this country. And he also said that they had a plan. So what does this mean for Kenyans? It's giving Kenyans an opportunity to now expose political lying and political lie by somebody who has been prominent in government. And therefore it opens an opportunity even for you, Eric Latiff, Ndu, and CT, to actually be considered tomorrow in 2027 as possible presidential candidates based on ideas. Now Kenyans, because I can hear and I can tell you, go to Facebook, you will see some Kenyans are even making it comical that whoever stole the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza government, please should bring it back. People are making it comical because now they realize political lying is not really a solution. Populism per se is not really. It's not it. You can be a populist, but with an agenda for the country.
So, Doc, essentially, if I can stop. So, what you're saying essentially is that this presidency then has opened the door to the realization that anything is possible. Kind of like when generations of Black Americans or African Americans rather, saw that Obama could become president, and they said, look, then now anything is possible. Is that what you're saying? That a moment like this needed to happen in Kenya, where somebody who was not from the quote-unquote dynasty.
And yes, and that's exactly what I mean, because William Ruto, in my view, has actually brought to an end that perceived dominance that it is the guys with families with big names, from big tribes with big money that can actually ascend to the presidency. Now, the reason also I don't excuse him, because he is actually a surrogate of those regimes. Right from as early as 1992. So he's a surrogate. He's actually a creation of those regimes. So now we can also say, okay, wait a minute. Yes, we have ended the dominance of some of those big names, big families, the Kenyattas, the Odingas, and the rest. But now here comes their surrogate also, who is just not a solution to our problems. We can now begin to see the lying even from this surrogate. So they are one and the same. So tomorrow, if a Sengwer or an Ogek or an El Molo come up with an idea about governing this country, William Ruto's presidency has actually paved the way for that opportunity.
Right.
You can now begin to say, okay, let's wait a minute, let's listen in.
So people will not vote based on tribe. They will vote based on issues. That's what you're saying?
I do believe we are headed there. And what the opportunity he is giving now is people are beginning to talk about ideas. Did they actually have ideas? Because even right now on the table, people are discussing, what happened to the narrative of Boda Boda, Mama Mboga, the wheelbarrow guy? We don't see that. Look at the appointments in the cabinet. Yeah, it's a cabinet of billionaires and multimillionaires. You know, you don't. I mean, today. I mean, sometimes I like to use Uber and Bolt, and I always have a conversation with the drivers. I'm telling you, there are so many guys there with master's degrees in specialized skills. And they are hustling.
Yeah.
Now, President William Ruto, if you were to use intelligence, the NIS, the CID, you could have easily picked even a Uber driver, a Bolt driver, and said, because you've been hustling, and I promised you guys this is a government of hustlers, you know, even symbolically. But he didn't do that. He went for multimillionaires, billionaires, but he also went for political failures in the category of chief administrative secretaries, people who had been rejected at the 2022 election. So you can actually see now, I'm hoping that Kenyans can have a debate, and that's why for me I was excited about coming to for this show today. I'm hoping that Kenya now can begin to interrogate these people. When they promise you certain things, do they actually mean it? There's a post I put in yesterday about what Ndindi Njoro said against rising the cost of fuel. Mudavadi said the same thing. Wetangula said the same thing. And they were all against the administration of Uhuru, and they were using the idea of...
This was in the Uhuru era?
No. Just 2021. Yes, during Uhuru.
In the handshake era.
In the handshake era, actually. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
They were all against the handshake era. Yeah?
But look, they was saying, you know, if we raise the cost of fuel, this is going to really affect.
They spoke about it very bitterly.
Right.
But look where they are now. And I'm hoping that Kenyans can actually begin to see that these people are just turncoats, politically speaking. And that for them, it's about themselves. Because you cannot also say that you inherited empty coffers. But look at the largesse in government. Even people like David Ndii, who are the chief economic advisors, have come out openly to say there is a lot of wastefulness in government. So, and I'm hoping that we can continue this debate. I know
that's true, though, Dr. Okoh. But is it because of a Ruto presidency, Ruto ascending to the top seat? Or had this even begun even during the Uhuru era? During the Uhuru era, remember, Kenyans on Twitter even going as far as writing and tagging the World Bank and telling World Bank, please don't lend this guy anymore. Anytime Uhuru was visiting a certain country, they would actually tag the presidency of that country or the leadership
until Uhuru ran away from Twitter
and say, don't lend this guy any more money. We do not want any more debts. So there was all this conversation at that time. And so Kenyans were getting woke even then. And Kenyans were thinking about the quality of leadership that they were getting and were dealing with even then. So Ruto rising to office or Raila rising to office does not necessarily change how Kenyans were thinking in the run-up to that election and post-election.
No, Eric, it does both ways. The answer is yes and no. Yes, in the sense that if you look at the era, like those eras, political eras I've explained, there was a lot of dominance on tribe and region. And you could even hear the narrative, it is our time. It's time for our people. If you remember, for example, the Mulembe Nation narrative, that it's our time now to be able to
govern this country.
You know, but Ruto's ascendancy to the presidency actually helps now to open up the minds and eyes of Kenyans. That you are in a way we have transited, from those big names dominating the political space in Kenya, tagging in the tribe and the regions they come from, now to a presidency of William Ruto, who, in his own narrative, used to be a chicken seller, and that's what took him to school and all that. So a lot of people can now relate, especially the hustlers, the mamambogas, the wheelbarrows, because he came and spoke their language. And somehow they bought into it. They bought into it. Of course, then he tagged those people who are rebelling against the Kenyattas in central Kenya. That's why you hear about Otwa Mulima, Mount Kenya region and all that. But the debate I want Kenyans to begin to discuss is, okay, now we have this person who had styled himself.
Who is one of us.
Yeah, one of us. But now look at the things that he's doing. First of all, even from the composition of his own government. Remember when people are being asked, how much are you worth? I mean, a lot of Kenyans are like, wow, can this really be a hustler government? Look at the kind of budget now.
But is it not a hustler government?
Well, I think the people who are crying the most now
If we go with just what you have put forth as an argument, right? The others were dynasties. Not necessarily because they were billionaires.
Fake dynasties, I would say.
Yeah. Just use the Kenyan way of tagging them, right?
Kenyan definitions.
Not necessarily because they were billionaires, but because of their family history.
Yes.
And their lineage.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's because they came from families that had been there for long in politics of this country. Now look at the Ruto cabinet. It doesn't have them apart from Musalia Mudavadi.
No. I mean, Ruto's government, even beginning with himself, like I said, that's why I provide that historical timelines, right from 1992. And that's why I call him a political surrogate of these big, big names, big families, big regions and all that. So Ruto, I've always argued, he's not a newcomer in government.
True.
Really. I mean,
but you are talking about families.
Yeah.
Ruto's family has not been influential in Kenya's politics.
And that is why I'm saying...
Your tweet was on families. And that's why we picked it as the Kenyatta and Kenyatta family.
And that's...
Odinga and Odinga family.
Exactly.
And you put those ones aside and say, you come from families that have dominated Kenya's politics. Ruto does not come from a family that has dominated. He has been in Kenya's politics for many years. But his family, his mother, his father have not. His brothers, his siblings haven't.
And that is the avenue I want Kenyans to see that yes, you may not come from these big political families. And Ruto for me, like I say, is that conveyor belt to now say to Kenyans, you can come from nowhere, not a big family, and you'll be given the chance to serve the people of Kenya. But we also now scrutinize you. Are you factoring in your family background or even your own background so that now we can begin to see change in you because you've already identified yourself as one of us? But now we are beginning to say, okay, let's look at his policies. Let's look at the people that he forms in government. Then it's all been a lie. You can say to Kenyans, I'm from a very humble background. This is what I used to do. I struggled. But then the moment we give you an opportunity, you turn out to be the opposite. So that comparison, those considerations is why I'm saying Ruto's presidency provides that opportunity for us now to delve in and begin to critically analyze what kind of leaders do we actually want in this country. When people present themselves, do we actually look at them critically? Yes. I'll give you my own personal example. When I ran for president in 2017, a lot of the people who laughed at me actually are friends.
Your own personal friends.
My own personal friends. They were telling me, hey, man, is this a joke? Am I serious about this? And they're even telling me, but you don't have money. Kwani you to Rus, you to Rukanas, how many are you in this country? Yeah, I mean, those are
how many votes can you
How
bring?
many votes?
Me, the question I'm asking, what sort of friends do you have?
No.
They're real.
They're real because they had been blinded by the political mobilization in Kenya that you must be from a big tribe, you must have big money, you must have a big name for you to run for presidency. So I think they were speaking to the real politic of Kenya.
Yeah.
They were speaking to the real politic of Kenya. Although for me, I was telling, but you guys, why do you undermine yourself? Don't you think you're actually capable? Look at the qualifications to run for president of Kenya. Many of us, millions of Kenyans actually qualify. But you've been cowed to think that unless I come from a certain region, I've got certain background, so I will not attempt.
The second example, myself with.
Yes, the second example, when I proposed the Punguza Mizigo Constitutional Amendment Bill of 2019, which we discussed here, first it was fought vigorously by those big names, those big families, because for them, an idea cannot be popular if it is brought by somebody from some small tribe or a small party called Third Way Alliance that was just
the other day, and by people whom we know,
whom we gave jobs
and whom we didn't even know before yesterday.
Exactly. So there was that kind of disparaging and saying, who the hell is this guy to come here now? Yeah, but we also proved some people wrong. That in 2015, you remember there was the Okoh Kenya.
You proved a lot of people wrong, not some.
Okay, a lot of people wrong. English is not my mother tongue. So.
Yes.
So we proved a lot of people very wrong. One, we managed to get 1.2 million signatures, which even the mighty ODM was not able to get in 2015 during the Okoh Kenya. Then they bastardized their own handshake, tried to make it a constitutional amendment bill when it was not, but we also fought them up to the Supreme Court and we defeated them. So what I'm saying is, with the Ruto presidency, I am hoping that it's opening up Kenyans for really interrogation of our kind of leaders that we want, or the kind of leaders who present themselves, that don't dismiss people. And that's why, for me, I'm happy. And I'm just hoping that we can have a robust debate going forward, even for the next 4 years, before Ruto's presidency comes to an end. And hopefully, it might probably make him change, be a stronger president and look at the country, in a certain way, or even look at the hustlers and the wheelbarrow and actually advance favorable policy decision that will now benefit the people. And that way, I think, in my view, you will have proved me wrong.
And you actually think that is a realistic possibility?
Well, anything is possible.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
When every evidence that we've given so far points to it being an eventuality that will not happen, we then want to conclude when we have argued our points very, very clearly, and then we get to the point where the impossibility is what has been proven by the argument, then we say, actually, despite this, it is actually possible. How?
So, what is the possibility? Let's take a break.
So, my view is, quick, before I take a break, I think it's good that we bring these issues to the table in the hope that it will influence government to think differently. I'm not a prophet of doom. I hope that my government will, going forward, will be able to advance certain policies that will also make me as a Kuru stop being critical. And I don't mind going back to teaching law because I love...
But why should one stop being critical?
Well, if
one is critical
when things are being done well.
When things are, even when, they're being done well, critiquing right. is absolutely important so that they can get better.
Right.
Yes. You don't sit on your laurels and say it is now good and then you rest.
Let's take a break then. 28 minutes to 9. Dr. Ekuru Aukot is the party leader of the Third Way Alliance. He's here this morning advancing this argument that Ruto's presidency is a blessing in disguise for Kenya's politics going forward. Why is that? Well, he's saying that we'll continue this conversation after we take a look at traffic. Is there traffic today? No. It's a public holiday, but he'll tell us anyway. Okay. And the weather. Is there weather today?
Weather is definitely there.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing policy of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Na hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Partly cloudy conditions at 14 in Nairobi, highs of 22. We'll see highs of 25 in a sunny Nakuru and highs of 21 in a sunny Nyeri, 16 and sunny in Eldoret. And at 24, Mombasa now after the showers is sunny. Sunny at 25 in Malindi and sunny at 20 in Kisumu, 19 and sunny conditions in Kakamega. At 19, Kampala is sunny going to highs of 27 and we'll see highs of 29. In a mostly sunny Dar es Salaam, 6 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg, and we'll see highs of 29 in Lagos and 30 in Kinshasa.
Spice up your life.
Not much happening this morning. We saw a little bit of movement in and out of the city. Whatever was happening on the northern bypass, that has been sorted out now. And the folks who are working on Mombasa Road should have cleared up or should be clearing up right about now. So folks who are moving around will not have a problem. Traffic is not going to be bothersome today. Enjoy it while you can because tomorrow is a coming. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Talk to us there. Still keep things moving this Wednesday.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Hardware Alliance, CT.
You know, when the good doctor narrated our president's history from 1992, what I garnered, looking at that process and that progress and that journey to 2023, is like he picked the worst possible political habits all along the way. So, the dynasty that we speak of is not according to one's lineage necessarily. Dynasty as in somebody who's been in political parties and in our politics for a long time is also dynastic.
That's true.
Because he has moved from one political party, from one government to the other. So the vagaries and everything that happened in politics, because nobody starts at the top. You start off as just a send around and you graduate to somebody who can send one person, then 10, etc. Then you get to be president who can send the whole country, that sort of thing. But we are saying that if we are seeing the management of this country under Kenya Kwanza, and the president is Dr. William Ruto, then we're saying that the things he picked up were not on how to ensure that the country is governed or run in a manner that benefits the mwananchi, but it seems to be he picked up all the wrong lessons in how to ensure that you disenfranchise your citizenry as much as you possibly can, while telling them that this is this thing that I meant, okay, is actually meant, yes, is actually for their benefit, and that if they actually look closely, they will see the benefits. That all these things, these naysayers who keep saying that prices are rising, it's bad, it's actually good for you. That when food prices go up, it's actually good for you. Just
when
hold on.
Increase.
It's even better for you. It'll get better. And I'm saying, but that is not entirely true. It's not entirely true, because that might represent a semblance of truth if the economic situation that, again, this government inherited didn't exist. Then those will argue, but he was not a government. Yes, he was, but it was inherited. Just like the Uhuru government inherited certain things from the Kibaki government, and the Kibaki government inherited certain things from the Moi government, etc., etc., etc. The reason why President Moi talked of Nyayo, he knew what he had inherited, and he was saying, folks, I'm not going to bring about any drastic changes. I'm actually going to follow in the footsteps, okay, of the person who has handed this over to me, so to speak. Or rather, the person whose place I've now taken. If we are to judge this current leadership, are we going to judge them on the promises that they made? And yet we know they are politicians, and politicians very often say things they do not mean, make promises they have no intentions of keeping at all. It's just a campaign process. The problem, I would argue, is now when they are now in power and they're repeating the same things that they repeated when they were campaigning, then you have to say, so perhaps you actually meant what you're saying during the elections. Now, if we believe you, then we'll expect to see the manifestations of it.
So, CT, if I pick a few things you've said.
Yes.
First of all, let me start with the idea that politicians always don't mean what they say. I don't entirely agree with you.
No, not always.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yes. Because, okay, fair enough.
Remember, he's a politician.
Yeah.
Yes.
And let's see. Actually, he doesn't mean anything that he's saying.
I'm first and foremost a lawyer. And I love being a lawyer.
He was feeling judged here.
I am just a Kenyan who's decided to participate in the politics of my country, in the public affairs of my country. So if that makes me a politician, then so be it. But secondly, as a rider to that, I don't think we should demonize politics. Because politics is is an ingredient in every society that we cannot run away from. I think we should demonize actions of people who are calling themselves politicians, especially when they lie to the general public to get into public office. Now, having said that, CT, and I also want to agree with you, we can judge this administration based, of course, on the political history of the current leader. Because we are saying he cannot extricate himself completely from, for example, and I don't buy this idea that, it was Uhuru. This excuse should stop. And I'm hoping that Kenyans can actually tell Ruto and his deputy and his guys, stop this excuse. We can even compare it with the Kibaki administration. When Kibaki took over from Moi, yes, we knew things were bad, but he never went on lamenting in churches, wherever, complaining that, I inherited bad things. He actually went to work. He went to work. And then, so, yes, we can judge him based on the history because he's been there. He's traveled a political journey from, say, 1992. That's not anybody.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
30 years.
We're talking about 30 years.
Yep.
So this is a person who, in my view, and I've argued in many forums, that he cannot today tell us that he does not know what's wrong in government. And going back to campaigns of 2022, if you made promises and told us Kenyans that I have the plan, I'm going to fix your problem. This is going to be a government of you ordinary Kenyans, the mamamboga, the boda. Then when you put in or promote policies that actually hurt those people, then we have to judge you. We have to judge you. Because after all, you're now in the driving seat.
We can no longer give past that excuse that you're a politician and we should understand that you are just telling us these things so we can get the votes. Basically, we should also mature beyond that and say at that point of politics where you're coming to try and hoodwink us, we should call you out and tell you this is impossible. Or how exactly are you going to do this? So when we give you the vote and you come to office, then we have the right to tell you, boss, you said and you convinced me that this is the route you are going to take to make life better for me. You have abandoned that route, and this is the consequence.
So are you also saying that this presidency, not necessarily in the man who's the president, but in the opportunity that it then presents, are two in nature? One being that somebody who was not dynastic in nature, but even if he was, has then come in, and so now presents an opportunity for other Kenyans to come into that space. But also in nature of the presidency, that it gives Kenyans a unique opportunity, or maybe one that they have not embraced to this level, to question the actions of an administration, to put and hold an administration to account on very many levels, that you cannot come in with an authoritarian way of doing things, that as we see, we're going to hold you accountable and insist on the things that you said you would do. If you do not do, this is an opportunity that has been presented to Kenyans to get into citizen participation, citizen governance.
I agree with you, Andrew, and I think that's what I'm saying is that, yes, you pointed out this person is not typically dynastic, but we can also not excuse the fact that he's been associated largely with those dynastic, so to call families in the context of our definition, but also in the context of the president, like you rightfully saying, it is now upon Kenyans to say, okay, the presidency now is under a person we can actually say, okay, there is background and mine actually similar or the same, but he also made promises to us. Can we now begin to question how he goes about running the country as if he was one of us? And if he's running the country again in the style and fashion of the
other guys,
then I think he has also presented an opportunity for us to say, no, it's possible to be lied to, even by our own. Nobody is pure, even from within our own family setup. You can always have the black sheep and in the family. But now it means we can actually begin to interrogate, and this is what I want Kenyans to try beginning. Let's now interrogate the presidency of William Ruto with a view to him delivering, first and foremost, what he promised during election
holding him accountable to that.
And I want Kenyans to also begin to debate the question that when politicians or people seek public office and they make promises, we must remind them about those promises. We cannot just excuse and say, and they need to stop this thing of blaming Uhuru administration. Uhuru administration is no longer there. I wish we could stop politicking now that we are in government. The political space closed in 2022. You're still a politician, but I want us now to change those titles. Don't call them politicians. They are now our leaders. They must lead us to a certain path of prosperity. And if they're not doing that, because that's the hope they sold to us, and so this thing of these politicians, even for us here on this situation room, we need to stop talking about these are politicians.
Actually, we will not stop, because we have to typify individuals who are engaged in the process of politicking, because it's the best way we can label them. And it's not always necessarily negative.
That's true.
You see, what you say is true, but consider for a second,
Yeah.
when you talk about the promises that people make, and somehow during the campaign time they were made, and during the time when one leadership they keep making the same promises, what exactly then are we seeing? Are they augmenting what they said to say they meant what they said they're going to do it? Or is there something else happening that we don't see?
So CT, to answer you very quickly, again, back to the topic why I think this president is a blessing in disguise. It's an exposition of political lies. And I think Kenyans really needs to begin to interrogate what people say during politics when they are seeking public office. And once they are in office, they start having excuses.
Can we take a step back?
Yes.
Why do people do that? Knowing full well that you actually have no intention of fulfilling the things that you had to say. Why do people on the campaign trail? It might look like a very basic, rudimentary question, but it goes really deep.
It's deep. It's deep. No.
Why do people do that?
First of all, I think quickest answer is the fact that for the longest time we have not been able to interrogate leadership critically in the context of, leaders. People don't interrogate ideas that are being brought on the table. They don't interrogate those leaders. For the longest time, we've been blinded by the fact that ni mtu wetu, one of our own, our tribesman. And you see, this is a fallacy. Let me take you back to when Uhuru Kenyatta was campaigning in 2012, 2013. Him and William Ruto are like bosom buddies or even brothers. One of the things that brought them together, and which was also a lie, is the fact that they are being tried at the ICC. Now, the International Criminal Court. Now, Kenyans never interrogated that, but they used that idea that, let's bring together our communities. Uhuru was being accused, and so was Ruto. So they cleverly or mischievously decided that, we want to unite our people. A lot of people did not interrogate the mischief on that political promise. And they actually bought into it. So these guys became, you saw the first term of their presidency. They were even wearing almost identical shirts, identical, ties and all that, even almost holding hands. Then come the second time, now it exposed the fact that was even a lie. These people are not actually even working together. Ruto started saying, I've been elbowed out of government. Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, who are abusing each other publicly, because you remember some of these things. I mean, Uhuru was calling, Odinga Muganga, Sujinini, and then of course Odinga on the other side calling Uhuru Mtu ya Bangi, Mlevi, the conductor, he was saying,
Daktari, are you aware that's entertainment?
No, but these things were said publicly.
There were people who were believing it.
Yes, but people now, back to your question, the narrative, the political psyche of our people for the longest time was actually predicated on the fact that it's our tribe, it's our region, it's our person. So they never thought outside.
They never dug deep into what this our person is saying.
And I'm liking some of the things that I can see on social media being posted, for example, even by some Kalenjins. There's a guy, my favorite, it's called Lawi Korir. Lawi Korir posts things that are very critical of the president. He says openly, William Ruto lied to us. So I'm seeing an awakening. But I think it has to have some continuation over a period of time so that next time we're thinking about leaders, let's not be blinded by the fact that they come from our region, they are one of our own. Because, I was going to tell you, I'd forgotten, I'm just going to give an example of, say, the Kikuyu community. You see, during Uhuru's, is it first term or second term? I don't remember. There was that term that was being called Thuraku. Thuraku is these ants. Yeah? So they were told, you have to come out. Thuraku, kumera, that's the word. You have to rise up and vote for our own, because the seat is being threatened. Then I also came to learn through my Kikuyu friends another phrase used called udhamaki. Udhamaki is leadership.
udhamaki ni wito, yani leadership is ours, dhamaki ni shao. These people, it's very disparaging. So of course the reference was for against Raila Odinga that as we are the leaders, we are the udhamaki, but these people fish, city Muga, you let them eat their fish.
Thank you very much.
but whether it was for political optics, but then later on, udhamaki and udhamaki
came
together under the handshake, and Youth Uraku, who was being excited, could not even share in the spoils of that handshake government. It's them who started complaining immediately that I think we are duped. Just like the same way now, Akani and the hustlers saying they are duped. So, to the question, I'm hoping that now with this presidency, people can begin to be critical and to critique, to think about,
So how else shall we identify with our political leaders?
The number one thing.
You see, we've been identifying with, this is a person from my backyard. This is a person who speaks my language. This is a person who represents my community. So you're saying we are abandoning that by and by. And with the 2022 campaign, we started looking at this as a person whose lifestyle is akin to mine. This is a person whose social status is akin to mine. This is a person whose upbringing and everything is closer to mine. We may also abandon that. How shall we identify with our leaders?
We don't have to abandon the people we know, where we come from. In fact, I'm very proud Turkana and Kenyan at the same time. I'm very proud. No, nobody can take that away from me. But I think one of the things I've been thinking lately is that how do we begin to infuse some level of change in terms of the way we see things? I don't think continuing with the narrative of our people, the region I come from, my tribesman, will bring that change. Because it's a very dogmatic a way of seeing things. Your tribesman, if he occupies the presidency, does not feed your children, does not pay your rent. And that, I think, is the thing that Kenyans must begin to see. That even if you insult one of your own, he doesn't share his salary. It's not even practical. That even if you were to be such a missionary person, say, okay, kabila yangu, line up, I'm giving you part of my salary. It's not even enough. So, it is that level of, using a very strong term, that mediocrity, we need to begin to shatter it. So that we now begin to really say, okay.
Look at issues.
Look at the issues. Let's look at issues.
How many years do you give us? Because, okay, at national level, we may stop looking at it that way, but let's go down. Turkanas will look at Pokot and see Pokots. Turkanas will look at the Marakwet and see Marakwet. They look at Samburu and see Samburu.
And that's why I was saying earlier on that now that we have a government in place, we should maybe not stop, because Muga City wants to continue calling them politicians. We now need to start looking at them as leaders. That these leaders are leading us into what path? Because the moment we try giving them this set of politicians, they run away with it. And they somehow even accept. And a lot of Kenyans, honestly, millions of Kenyans do not know. These people are friends, whether they're in this camp or that camp. Their children go to the same schools. They are club members, they're private club members. They travel together. So I don't think it's like the whole idea of a revolution. Sometimes it's not about years. It could be a minute. It could be a minute. I can share this experience. When I went to, I was in a team that was advising the Tunisian constitution making body just after the revolution. So I became curious. Okay, how did this revolution start? It started from a man called Mohamed Bouazizi. He was a fruit vendor who was being harassed by this equivalent of our Kanjo. And one time he just said, I've had enough of this nonsense. He decided to do what he did, lit himself on fire. And within, I think a day or two, when Ben Ali pretended to go and visit him in a hospital, he was told, you know what, there is a plane parked. You will not kill you. You and your family members got into that plane and we don't want to know where you are going. It's a one-way ticket. That was a revolution sparked by an action of just one individual. It can happen. But change can also happen once you have got the right transformative leader. I saw the Obama's presidents having brought some change, or a lot of change in America, just by the fact that Obama ascended to that seat. And a lot of people could see some of the big generals, people crying, because they could see hope it can actually happen, after all these years. Zambia, I am following very closely what Ichilema is doing in Zambia. Quick things. But even in our own country, forget even about other countries, even in our own country, when Kibaki took over the presidency, there are certain quick things he did. For example, free primary education, CDF. Those things do not require years. You can do certain things that actually, bring change in the country and even change the mindset of our people.
And inspire people.
And inspire people to now see things differently. I think the problem is we are also being made to believe that, change takes so long. Not necessarily. It can take long. It can take a very short time depending on what a leader decides to do for his society. And that's why Kenyans must take political promises very seriously and they must interrogate them. Because some people believed that actually with a narrative of the Aslan nation, the Boda, the Mamamboga, actually our lives will change just like that.
Very good.
They believed, they bought into it.
I have a question. Everything that you've said, let's look at our possibilities and actually grab these opportunities that we have. As a constitutional lawyer, do you think that what you're talking about, we should allow it to happen organically? Or should we institutionalize it and start guiding ourselves towards that way?
Both.
Should we start doing... So,
for example,
BBI... There was this idea of, creating 5 top-level positions that will be rotating, so that the presidency does not, the leadership does not have to only sit with these 2 tribes at any one given time. Remember Uhuru Kenyatta saying the same thing, what, it's been us Kikuyus and Kalenjins, how about Aluo then taking the leadership now? I'm supporting this one because we can open it up. Should we institutionalize it or should we just let it go organically?
I think we could do both. I don't think the problem in Kenya, honestly, Eric, is a question of institutions. Institutions are there. I mean, institutions, if you deconstruct institutions, what are they? There are individuals who are running these institutions. And it's their actions that are actually undermining these institutions. I'll give you a simple example that if we really wanted to bring change in this country. When we were sitting at the committee of experts to draft this country's constitution, I don't believe entirely in the 47 counties of Kenya, but they were very necessary in terms of sending resources to those counties. And somehow it is stopped the narrative that we are minorities, we are marginalized. Like us, the Turukanas, we used to, sometimes people call you and tell you, habari ya Kenya, how is Kenya? Even right now, people even right now, people still do it, especially northern part of Kenya. Because for the longest time, the political system had disenfranchised them, had marginalized them, that their regions were not worth developing. But when we brought in the 47 counties, and then of course under chapter 12 on finance, public finance, and how those resources are apportioned equitably, not necessarily equally, equitably. And then of course, people like ourselves pick, you have to pick one of your own, because in some countries like Turkana, Mandera, Wajir, Garissa, it can only be a member of those tribes that can be governors. You'll go to Luo Nyanza, the same thing. Maybe Nairobi, you can see, we have had Mbuvi, we've had Kidero, now we have, Sakaja. It's cosmopolitan counties, but in some of those counties, and for me, one of the questions that I kept on posing, you Turus now,
Turus are who?
Turkana. There's a short for Turkana. You people from Marsabit, Isiolo, Samburu, West Pokot, what excuse now do you have to say we are marginalized? There are resources that are coming to you. It is under the hands of your own son, daughter,
whom you elected.
That person must be knowing the problems you are facing in that part. If it is water, if it is security, now you have resources in billions. So with that, Eric, coming back to how can we bring change quick? If I was the president of this country, of course in charge of the national government, that is disbursing these funds, all I need to do is pick the Auditor General report. I can see theft of this money. People must go to jail. There is a lot of evidence of theft of public money in billions. Why aren't people going to jail? Imagine if you jailed even just 10 governors.
The president does not jail people. You wrote the constitution.
No. Yes. you know,
I suspect he means the process of
the
ensuring
process
that this person eventually ends up in
jail. Because even okay, listen. I mean, even coming back to the political campaigns of 2022,
in 10 seconds,
we were told that under my government, nobody will steal even a single shilling. He wasn't saying I'm the police or I'm the DCI, but he was saying I'm going to use my office, the influence of my office,
to make sure
because if the national government is the one that disburses money and you have the auditor general report, why should I shy away from speaking about it as the president and demanding my chief spy, DCI, the police? I want you guys to investigate County X. How did these millions of money get lost?
Time is up.
Yeah?
Dr. Ekuro
So
Okot.
change can be like this.
It can happen.
Can happen.
Okay, let's keep the hope alive.
Yeah.
Dr. Ekuro Okot is the party leader of Third Way Alliance. Time for the news, 9 a.m.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Kenya National Union of Teachers says that the 20,000 teachers the government aims to hire won't address the shortage. Trans Nzoia County Secretary General George Wanjala says this is because one school needs about 7 teachers to teach all 14 subjects. In the 2023-2024 financial year budget, the government has allocated 4.8 billion shillings to hire 20,000 teachers and 1.1 billion shillings to promote the teachers.
Katika budget tunaambiwa kwamba serikali ina nia ya kuajiri walimu 20,000. Walimu 20,000 kwa madarasa JSS. No, that's just but a drop in the ocean. Kwa sababu shule zetu ukicalculate the number of teachers ambao wanahitajika kwa shule zote Kenya kwa junior secondary schools tunahitaji walimu 200,000 kwa sababu we have close to 30,000 schools. And if every school is given even 7 teachers alone, then tutahitaji walimu around 210 or even more. Some schools even still have 1 teacher, yet the subject areas are 14. Watafunza namna gani hizi 14 subject areas? So this is a big problem.
Wanjala further says that most institutions are facing financial constraints, leaving them in large debts.
Serikali imetuma pesa kwa accounts na imetuma pesa chache mno. Walimu wakuu wamepata pesa chini ya robo ya pesa ambazo wanahitajika kupata. So shule zetu zitarana namna gani? Watoto watumwe nyumbani na wizara inasema watoto wasitumwe nyumbani. Sasa wasitumwe nyumbani watakula nini? Contractors wanatakana walipwe, subordinate staff wanatakana walipwe kule shuleni na mambo mengine mengi yanatakana yaendeshwe katika shule hizo. Kwa hivyo bila pesa masomo yetu yatasimama kabisa. Kwa hivyo serikali ichukue education katika nchi kwa priority because bila elimu taifa hata litasimama.
The Ministry of Education's budget is appropriately 628.6 billion shillings, with 25.5 billion shillings having been allocated to junior secondary schools, while 5 billion shillings has been set aside as the examination fees. Health workers in Machakos County have threatened to down their tools in 3 weeks' time if the administration fails to address their concerns. KMPDU Lower Eastern Chairman Charles Okumu said over 2,500 medics issued the notice to Governor Wavinya Ndeti's administration through their respective leaders. Okumu further said their issues of concern were promotions of healthcare workers that were to happen in 2022 and some this year, staff shortage, as well as inadequate hospital supplies. Police officers in Kajiado County are investigating an incident whereby a mother is believed to have set her 2 children on fire following differences with her husband. It's said that the suspect burned the children between the ages of 10 and 2 while they were inside the house. The body were burnt beyond recognition and have been taken to Kajiado Referral Hospital mortuary. Muslims across the country will today join others worldwide to celebrate Eid-Ul-Adha. Eid-Ul-Adha, or the Day of Sacrifice, is the most important day in the Islamic religion after Eid-ul-Fitr. In Islamic ideologies, this day is used to remember the incident where Abraham wanted to sacrifice his son Ishmael before God gave him a sheep. Likewise, for some, this day is the end of the visit to Mecca, which is among the expectations of all Muslims at least once in their lives. This event comes as Interior CS Kithure Kindiki declared today a public holiday to pave way for the celebrations. The battle between Siaya Deputy Governor William Odol and the County Assembly is far from over. Just a day after the Senate overturned a decision by the MCAs to impeach him, the Assembly has now taken the war to the High Court. The MCAs have now unanimously resolved that a constitutional petition be filed by the Assembly at the High Court in Siaya to find the DG unfit to hold public office. This followed the adoption of a notice of motion sponsored by the Ukwala MCA Peter Odor.
Mimi naomba serikali ya Kenya EACC aikuje Siaya investigate mambo ya corruption yenye iko Siaya, kwa sababu for the last 11 years sisi kama wakazi wa Siaya hatuna development yoyote ambayo tunaona ya devolution.
We should be knowing that this is a local county whereby the two must work together, and now they don't need voters. What voters want is service delivery.
That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Obaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Right at the junction of the Pangani underpass, we see a little bit of traffic, but nothing to worry about because that'll clear up in no time as folks who, woke up at this hour trying to get out to the city to do one or two things. And probably that looks like the worst of it today. Traffic is not an issue, likely not to be so throughout the rest of today, but we're going to keep an eye on things and see how it all opens out. Talk to us on Spice FM, KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
9. How are you doing? Welcome to the final hour of The Situation Room this lovely Wednesday morning. Happy Eid-Ul-Adha. We are reminding you to support Colgate and NHIF in making sure that people in some parts of the country who have no access to safe drinking water get access to safe drinking water. In fact, let me move the conversation to our next guest, who is the Member of Parliament for the Raka constituency, the Honourable George Murugara. Good morning.
Good morning, Latiff. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you again in the Situation Room. Always a pleasure having you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. It's been a while, but we've been out there doing stuff.
Doing things.
Absolutely trying to make things work.
We will talk about them. But before we do that, let's talk about water. How's the water situation in terms of access to water for people in the Raka constituency?
It is not very good. It's not very pleasant to talk about. It's good to confess that I have problems in the Raka as regards water. And we are calling upon the government to water the Raka. The Raka is arid and semi-arid. We have several rivers that traverse the Raka from the highlands, but unfortunately, the rivers are drying up. And therefore, even the traditional way to fetch water from rivers is not available to them. So the government really has to put in a policy to ensure that the Raka is watered and properly watered. Yes.
And what are you doing? Maybe with CDF and all, but water is also it's a devolved function in some ways.
Yes.
And the county government of the Rakanidi, of course, has a lot of work to do.
Yes.
On providing water.
Yes.
But do you have anything that you can do with CDF?
CDF to schools, yes. To schools, I try, if there is a borehole near a school, that I try to rehabilitate, equip it, and supply water to the school. But hardly can we supply water to the community through CDF because domestic water is devolved.
Yes.
Belongs to the county government. It's only irrigation water for irrigation that is under the national government. But even then, the county government also doesn't have lots of money which it can use for this. I know they are making an effort, but that effort is not good enough.
Okay.
We need a real budget from the national government, Ministry of Water, so that Tharaka is properly watered through either earth dams, better dams, dams that are not seasonal, boreholes, and other sources of water.
Okay. You have some work to do in terms of making sure that happens in the appropriations bill, that money is actually set aside for water projects in your constituency and the neighboring constituencies. But in the meantime, you can also look at other partnerships. For instance, this is what we're talking about. If you could partner with Colgate, because Colgate is actually doing this across the country. They've identified several areas and they said, we have seen there's an acute shortage of water. And children in these areas are even not being able to go to school because they have to go and fetch water. Now, we are supporting the building of 13 water wells in several parts of the country where 150,000 people can benefit. So the water well then serves not just the school community, but the community around there. So first of all, the first thing you do is next time you send your people to go shopping, tell them go to Naivas, buy Colgate, because when they buy Colgate, then part of the money is going towards this project of doing the 30 water wells.
No problem with that whatsoever.
Second thing is we'll put you in touch with Colgate.
Thank you.
So then the next phase now of this project.
Thank you very much.
You are part of those that are having this conversation. So when the next time we're talking about people raising money for 30 water wells, some schools in Tharaka will benefit.
Will benefit from this. Yes. I commit absolutely 100%.
Very good.
I will buy Colgate as my toothpaste. I will also get in touch with Colgate, whichever way. If they require names of schools which I can give, I'll be able to do that. So I commit to it.
Asante.
Thank you very much.
City has the day's proverb. This week's proverbs are from Chad.
Yes, they're from the country of Chad. Arrogance burnt the chief's compound.
Arrogance burnt the chief's compound.
5 words.
That's it.
That's it.
Mheshimiwa, what do you make of this proverb? What's your interpretation?
I think what that means is pride comes before a fall. That's really the other translation of that one. That here was a chief who was extremely arrogant, possibly proud. He was not listening to his subjects, as a result of which he suffered the consequences, which possibly they just raided his kraal and set it ablaze because they would see no value in this particular chief. So something similar to that, that sincerely you have to humble yourself, not just before God, but also before man.
For young people.
That you are able to serve people with humility.
Very well said. You are co-chair of the Bipartisan Dialogue Committee. And the last time you were here, we were talking about the Bipartisan Dialogue Committee and the work ahead. Yesterday, you held a meeting with your side of the coalition, the Kenya Kwanza coalition, came out and made a plea and a call to the other side, the Azimio coalition, to rejoin the talks.
Yeah.
And then you put in a condition. And you told them, if you don't come in within 7 days, the IEBC selection panel then should begin its work.
Yeah.
Make that clear. What exactly were you saying?
We were being honest. We were being extremely honest. We were being candid because, remember, the talks have not broken down. They were just suspended. We have not yet exited properly under our framework agreement. So what we did was, first after the suspension, we went into budget making process and the finance bill and the finance laws. So that took a bit of time and we had to dedicate our time and the space towards that. Now that that is behind us, we thought it is the appropriate time to go back and discuss one major issue. And I must confess to you that even when I was here last time, I told you one common issue we have between Azimio and Kenya Kwanza is on IEBC. We need to listen to them to hear exactly what problems they have with the selection panel, because there are no commissioners already selected. So the only problem they would have is with the selection panel. So we know for sure that we have held this for 1 month. And we had told them that we would informally request a selection panel to hold it for about a month. That has happened. Eventually, we have not made any progress, and we thought it's a high time we went back to the talking table. This is why we invited them for a meeting on Tuesday, so that we can do the first issue, which is IBC. And if there are any other issues that are lined up in order of urgency, we would consider them when we go back to the negotiating table. Now, what is the effect of the default? Because they may tell us, sorry, we will not come. We don't like what you have done. We don't like you people. We won't come. The effect is what we've always told them, that we have a law in place. Unless Parliament amends that law is going to kick in and it will have to be carried through. So the selection panel is going to be under the relevant section of the IBC Act to carry out the nominations, which then will be forwarded to the president, and the president will appoint commissioners to IBC. We've said we cannot hold this anymore because one or two constituencies, I know of one, maybe there's another one, have no MPs, simply because the MP died and he's not been replaced. We have several wards, about 5 of them, which require replacement of MCS. The only person who can do this is IBC. And therefore, we require IBC constituted as at yesterday, not even today. Yes.
Okay. So I can hear you on some things that can actually move without too much, one would say, animosity, that all seem to be at a halt right now.
Yeah.
From what we've seen yesterday, from calls from Azimio for hoping to get notice, really, from government on certain things, especially with the passage of the finance bill and the repealing of that is what is being sought after. Now, this bipartisan talks also comes into play because one of the key action plans that they have, which they're saying is that they've withdrawn the Azimio La Umoja team from the bipartisan talks. So what does this portend for this process?
That was said in a public rally.
Right.
We will only believe that they've withdrawn if we go back to the framework agreement. The relevant notices are given under that agreement, and eventually there is exiting, as also provided in the agreement. Pronouncements in a political rally may actually be what they have in mind, but it has to be actualized.
Okay.
So we are waiting for them to actualize this. In the meantime, there may also be a change of mind, because this is for the good of the country.
Is that what is hoped for? A change of mind to say come back to the table and let's
that is what we hope for. Otherwise, then what was their problem with the IBC? The rest of the issues they are raising, including the finance bill, was not part of our talks. It was introduced the last minute. That part of our talks now in some parliamentary group meeting that was attended towards when they suspended, it's when the finance bill came in. And we told them, sorry, we cannot have new things coming up day and night because this is going to hinder our progress. So we said, no, it's going to be part of it. And we said, fine, if it's part of it, it's part of it. But as far as we are concerned as Kenya Kwanza, the common issue we had was IBC. And we are prepared to sit down, negotiate on the issues surrounding the selection panel. But if they don't come back, so be it. Let's go to the law. Let's have a selection panel in place. Let's constitute IBC. The rest of the issues, we shall deal with them. I heard them saying lawyers will meet lawyers, whether in court or elsewhere. We have no problem with that. We have enough lawyers, just as they also have enough lawyers.
You know, whenever we have these discussions around the bipartisan processes that we're supposed to follow, 3 questions come to mind. One, was there ever goodwill from both sides when this process was begun? That's question number 1. Question number 2, following up on the goodwill, is there any hope that these discussions, when concluded, can actually see the actualization of what is agreed upon? Lastly, is this particular forum something that can be instituted so that it becomes a permanent commission? So that, because the problems we have in this country, it's not as though these are just part of the problem. Something else will come up. And sometimes it appears that going to either the National Assembly or the Senate to discuss these things may not necessarily give us the results that we want. So those are my 3 questions.
Thank you very much. The first one is goodwill. I confirm on behalf of Kenya Kwanza, we actually had goodwill. And I kept on repeating that we were mandated to act within the law. And that's why they were saying, sorry, you're becoming a hardliner because you're insisting on the law being followed. And I was constantly telling them, sorry, you cannot do this because if you try to suspend the law at any one moment, that is called a coup. You are executing a coup against some legally elected government or instituted government or whatever it is. So we had goodwill. And this is why, in our view, the most urgent issue that had to be dealt with was IBC. The other issues were also pertinent. Reduction on cost of living. But we kept on asking, how is this to be done? The processes have to be administrative. They are not legal. And therefore, while we appreciate what you're saying, we have to be told how quickly it can be done, knowing for sure that as a government policy, we are moving away from subsidies. So that was on the table. As regards would the policies have been implemented, I confirm yes. Whatever we agree on in IBC, I confirm Kenya Kwanza was prepared to actually implement so that we get IBC in place as quickly as we can. The selection panel may not have been a hinder, whichever way. But the real issue is constitution of the commissioners themselves so that IBC can carry on with its work. The rest of the matters would have possibly gradually been implemented as we are doing on cost of living. We still have tax duty-free sugar coming in. We have duty-free maize coming in. And we got many other measures that are being to try and bring down the cost of food. As regards whether we should have this as a permanent institution, a permanent committee or commission, that we have to fall back to the law. What does the law say? And is there a provision for such a committee to be in place within our legal framework? Now, as regards what we have today, we were saying it has to be parliamentary, a parliamentary committee, because that's the only way it can have legal impetus. And we believe we were towards that with recognition by Parliament and everything else, and we were progressing well. But let that be as it is now. Let's wait and see what happens next.
Mheshimiwa, with this political situation as it is right now, are you genuinely prepared to take the risk and constitute a selection panel and let that selection panel then go ahead to recruit IEBC commissioners, knowing full well the political backlash of it in terms of politically campaigning against the legitimacy of the IEBC commissioners in office, and then thrusting the issue of mistrust of a crucial commission that is conducting elections?
And unfortunately, we have the law. We must follow the law to the letter. We have invited them to come, and we have a sitting and a discussion. We've even offered on the table, if there is need to change the law, we will do it to accommodate them. They are now saying, we will not come to you. If they do not come to us, then the next option they have, and they know of it, and it's available to them, is go to Parliament and agitate your issues there. Amend whatever law you want to amend, do it whichever you want to do it. The correct position is that there is absolutely nothing wrong with the selection panel that is already constituted. But we need to be told. I say so because as far as I'm concerned, the law was followed to the letter. And it was their law. This is the law that we passed in the last Parliament. That is number one. Number two is they have to participate in the process. So if these commissioners are not acceptable to them, they again have to come to Parliament and make sure that these are rejected. That is the only other way we can do it. I do not think we can have any extra legal way of doing it. It has to be the legal way. And believe you me, it's going to be done, and IBC is going to be in place.
But Mheshimiwa, it's politics. Beyond the political grandstanding that both of you sides are having, you people talk to one another. You're friends with your colleagues from the other side. You know what their proposal was going to be. You have already had these informal conversations and discussions. You know what their proposal was going to be with regard to the law and the composition of the selection panel. You know that.
Well,
why don't you maybe, just as a show of goodwill, extension of the goodwill that you claim to have in abundance, just bring an amendment bill, because this was likely going to be the result of the talk. Bring an amendment bill of the IEBC Act, changing the composition of the selection panel, just the same way, this was what they were going to propose. Bring it to the floor of the House and let them vote yes or no on it.
So
that way, you can even come out politically and say,
I hold a brief for them, such that now instead of them proposing what they want, it is me, out of informal conversations, who is bringing the proposals.
Yes.
I don't think that would be in good faith. I don't think that is the way things are supposed to be done.
Do you think
the truth is, away from the talks, what I had out there is that they were proposing that the four commissioners be appointed, Kenya Kwanza 2, selection panel, not commissioners.
Selection
Kenya
panel.
Kwanza 2 and Azimio 2. The rest 3 are distributed to the others. Okay. There was a problem with that. Remember, the reason why that particular section was changed is because the court annulled it. Said there is a problem with the Parliamentary Service Commission getting 4 slots. And when it got 4 slots, 2 were for Azimio, 2 were for Kenya Kwanza. The court annulled that. What did we go to? We were told Parliamentary Service Commission must have 2 representatives. Only two.
Yes.
One went to Azimio, one went to Kenya Kwanza. They refused to nominate theirs. We had to advertise their position, and eventually some interview was done, and a person was picked because they had refused to pick their own. Now, though that's what I know off the record. How do I bring it to the record? I can't, because it is off the record. It is for them to bring it on record. It is for them to come back to the table. And they say, now, we have all these issues, including the finance bill and what have you, the Finance Act and what have you and what have you. But let's solve the IBC equation first. So we go there and discuss. It is them to move. I cannot move myself. Sure. I cannot be moved by what I hear from the streets.
No,
somebody has to move.
It is not from what you hear from the streets, Mheshimiwa. You can even conduct an ad hoc public participation. Right?
For them?
The leadership of Azimio may not come, but maybe members of Azimio may come, and they'll tell you exactly the same thing. If the issue, and let's assume that this issue that they are advocating is actually popular, then if it's popular with the people will come and tell you, we have a problem with the selection panel as proposed in the current law. If we have a problem with, for example, the Public Service Commission, Parliamentary Service Commission, Political Parties Liaison, and the others contributing, and we can see that these are likely going to be influenced by Kenya Kwanza, they'll come and tell you in public participation.
Yeah, that's good enough, but why are we doing it?
You've asked, I think the second time you've asked the question, and then why are you doing this? Is all of this precipitated on the demand for Azimio, for example, to be part of that selection committee? Or are we looking at the greater picture of electoral reforms in Kenya, which many people have been clamoring for the longest time? So if you say why are we doing it, can it not be that it is because the sought after electoral reforms that have not happened in this country then perhaps will take center stage? We're not doing it for Azimio, but doing it for the country.
But sincerely, who is supposed to be the driver of electoral reforms in the country? Is it Parliament? And if it is Parliament, the question is how? Or is it the IEBC that is supposed to be the driver of electoral reforms in the country? To me, it is not Parliament. To me, it is IEBC. IEBC is an independent commission. It takes directions from no one. And that is why we are saying the law should be followed. They are constituted, and any of Kenyans, parties, whoever, have proposals to make on electoral reforms, those should go to IBC. IBC is going to sieve them, and if there is any law to be made, that's when they come to Parliament. But if Parliament abrogates onto itself the process of conducting electoral reforms, it's based on what law?
If indeed, as you say, Mheshimiwa, the IEBC were independent, Why is it that we always have this hoo-ha when it comes to selecting people who will be part of that commission? This party formation wants this person wants this person. Are we then implying that we assume that the people they appoint or the people they select to represent their party will not be independent? Or is it that we know for a fact that they want people who will carry out the dictates and the wishes of their party and their people?
That possibly is it.
So then how independent then
grappling,
Yes.
Grappling is part and parcel of mankind, our way of doing things. When we appoint a Chief Justice, there is one side that is going to grapple. Say, sorry, your choice is not our choice. It's common. And judiciary is independent. When we elect the Speaker of the National Assembly, there is a side that will say, sorry, we don't recognize that Speaker. Even the executive, when you elect the Chief Executive of the country, the President, a side will say, we don't agree. So, whatever we try to do, sir, we will always be faced with the grappling that these people you've nominated, these people you've selected may not be what we want, but we have to move on.
I am in agreement with you about moving on. What I'm raising is this never-ending debate about the IEBC, okay? The moment political parties decided to have their say as to who is there and who does what, you have a selection. People choose, beginning with the commission led by Hassan, sorry. Something doesn't go the way one party. Suddenly, these commissioners and the political party who didn't win that election were part and parcel of appointing the people who were in that commission. Suddenly, there's something wrong with this commission. So, I am of the view that it has nothing to do with the commission. Because even if God Almighty brought the commission and chose the members himself and said, I, the Almighty God, have chosen these people as commissioners, there would be an issue. So why don't we deal with that issue? Because what you've intimated at is even with this bipartisan forum that you are co-chair of, okay? You say you people came in good faith. By implication then, the Azimio side did not have good faith. They just came. Because everything that is discussed, it looks like there has to be a bulwark somewhere. There has to be something that derails it somewhere. So it's never moving forward. And the understanding of us lay people is that they are not in agreement. So you have to ask a question, okay, so what are they in agreement with?
We don't think they're going to agree to anything. That's our view. I am sorry. And possibly because they are the opposition. The opposition should not agree with the government.
Is that really the role of the opposition, to disagree with the government?
It is not supposed to be. It's supposed to be what is called a responsible opposition, that you do not reject everything. It was surprising to hear that we were being told to withdraw the finance bill. The finance bill is the law that anchors the budget of the country for a whole financial year. So you're being told to withdraw it and replace it with what? Replace it with submitting somewhere of every Kenyan so that we can agree on.
Was there a suggestion as to what should replace it?
There was no suggestion whatsoever. It was brought to the table. We don't like this one. It has taxes. It has everything.
Okay, so there was an alternative offered?
There was no alternative offered whatsoever. It is purely just withdraw it. We go and discuss what is supposed to be in there, and then we come up with a new one. I have never seen any government, I have not heard of any government that would accede to that. What you do with the finance bill is it's an executive bill. It comes to Parliament. Our work is to amend that particular bill. This is what we were telling them. We are not going to withdraw. Come to the House. Come up with your proposals. We will consider them. If they sail through, you're fine. If you lose, you have to agree you've lost. So, surely, that's a problem we had with the demands that were placed to us. That's why we are saying possibly they will not agree to anything, but the country must move.
But consider anything that goes to Parliament, they were going to lose anyway.
Well, sorry about that, because it's part of the process. It's part of the democracy in the country.
So the matter going to Parliament was a no-brainer. I mean,
so surely, what do you do in the circumstances? You have to accept you've lost.
That's why the process that you are co-chair of was created, to try and find a middle ground between what was a definitive moment. It goes to Parliament. Kenya Kwanza has a majority.
Thank you.
Okay? So this was supposed to bridge. My understanding.
Yeah, thank you. And I think you're right. You're right. That is what we were supposed to do. But unfortunately, when we went to this table, we were met with the demand upon demand, and much of it was blackmail. It's either you do this or we pull
walk out.
Do this or we walk out. There comes a time you say, I have bent so far that I can't bend anymore, which is what we were telling them.
Okay, how had you bent? This one we have to ask.
Let's start with
what did you concede to?
What was the first demand? Remove Kainan. There was absolutely nothing wrong with Honorable Kainan. It's purely because, as a person, as a member of parliament representing elders, nothing wrong. But purely because we don't like Kainan. We don't like him who he associates with. We don't like the way he has come in. Who are you to bring him here? Remove him. All right? We had issues with Kosing. We said, fine. Maybe
because of who he represents or who he associates with.
Even him regarding his party.
Okay.
We're still not satisfied. But he said no.
So you are draw there.
Yeah, we had a draw there.
Everybody had issues.
One person had to give in. Who gave in? Kenya Kwanza gave in.
So Kosing remained.
So Kosing remained, and we had to bring in somebody else. All right? We bent. The second demand that came in was we were not going to be parliamentary at all. We said, sorry, we will lack impetus in law. We will lack anking in law. We must actually have some law backing us so that when the time comes, we have somewhere to take the even if the principals refuse the documents, we have parliament to table that document too. We haggled over it, and we had to go 50-50, meet in the middle. We say, fine, we will have an element of extra parliamentary and parliamentary.
Okay.
So again, here we've bent to agree to it. Because when this was being set up, the communique that we got was it has to be within the parameters of the law.
Yeah.
Anything extra parliamentary was not within the law. So we bent here. We moved on. And you can see it is handle after handle. Now, we got to discuss the issues of IBC. Listen to what we're being told. You have to agree that the selection panel suspends its work. We said, under what law can we agree to this? No. We are above the law. Here we are not bound by any law. Here we are bound by our own whims. We said we can't agree to that. Absolutely we can't. What we do is let us request the selection panel on its own volition to agree to our request. Formally ask them. And most likely they are human beings. They'll understand what you are doing. That was disagreed.
Most
they
likely.
said, no, it is not going to.
So you establish that they are human beings.
Yeah, they are human beings.
Because,
you cannot order selection panel under the law.
That's
you have
true.
to cite the law.
Yeah.
So what we did was we requested, that was my letter.
Yeah.
He redrafted it. He made it a resolution of the committee. I refused to sign. I said, this is not a resolution of the committee. It is a request by the committee. Now the next demand was we have to compel IBC to preserve the servers.
Yeah.
The question we asked, we are compelling as who? Where are we getting the power to compel an independent commission to do ABCD? What we do is, let's cite the law. Let's cite the Elections Act and the regulations thereunder. Remind them that they are under an obligation under the Act and the regulations to preserve election material for 3 years. I drafted the letter that way. Otiende Amolo rejected it.
On what basis?
He said, this is not good enough.
It has to be a resolution.
It has to be a resolution of the committee. So he said, sorry.
And the resolution, as you say, would actually be going against the law.
It could be going against the Elections Act.
Because you cannot order
IBC to do anything. But you can remind IBC it is bound
by the obligations.
The obligations under the law. So that is the draft I had given to Honorable Otiende Amolo. It's a draft he rejected, and he gave me 2 different drafts. And unfortunately, I couldn't agree to this because to me, I felt they were going outside the law.
So that one never happened.
So it never happened, and that's what he cited to suspend the talks. Said I refused to sign the 2 letters, right? And unfortunately, it wasn't done very well. It was not tidy because I'd sent him a draft. Said, this is what I propose. Instead of sending me a draft, this is what I feel should be. He actually gave me the letters to sign. They were brought to me at about 7, 8 o'clock in the evening. I think in his view, he felt I wasn't going to read. But I read. So I saw what the word resolved. The word resolved, I underlined. I said, no, sorry, young man, I can't sign this. Take them to Mheshimiwa. Tell him, I can't sign this.
Do you think everybody...
We have to take a break.
Okay.
It's 20 minutes to 10. The Honorable George Murugara is the MP for the Raka constituency. He is the co-chair of the of the Bipartisan Dialogue Committee, and is also the chairman of the National Assembly's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. He is a senior lawyer. Otiende Amolo is a senior counsel. But you called him young man.
No. The one he sent.
Oh,
the
messenger.
Well, he's my junior.
Let's take a break.
He's my junior still.
Even Otiende is still your learned junior.
Otiende is junior to me.
Okay.
He must have been 2 classes behind me.
He's your learned junior.
He's my junior.
Okay.
He's still a young man.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
...16 degrees in Nairobi, highs of 22, highs of 25 in a sunny Nakuru, and we'll see highs of 21 in Nyeri, highs of 24 in Eldoret. Mombasa will be sunny through today, highs of 29, and we'll see sunny conditions in Malindi as well, going to highs of 29. 23 and mostly sunny in Kisumu with highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 28 in a sunny Kakamega at 22. At 21, Kampala is sunny, highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 29 in a sunny Dar es Salaam at 27. Slightly warmer at 8 degrees in Johannesburg, we'll see highs of 17, and Lagos will see highs of 28. It's sunny at 23 in Kinshasa, highs of 30 today. Looking out into a mostly cloudy Beijing now after the rain, it'll go to highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 27 in a sunny Paris and 25 in a cloudy London. 20 degrees and mostly cloudy in New York. Coming into Wednesday, highs of 26 and lows of 11.
Business News with Spice FM.
This is the business news. I'm Leah Ubaga. The Treasury has 5 years to bring down the country's level of debt to 55% of the gross domestic product after MPs approved the conversion of the debt ceiling from the current 10 trillion to an anchor. MPs voted to approve the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill 2023 and now awaits President William Ruto to become law. The bill sets the threshold of the debt anchor of 55% of GDP in present value terms. The bill further provides a window not exceeding 5% to accommodate the current debt threshold to GDP, which stands at 60%. The high cost of living has emerged as the first real test for new CBK Governor Kamal Thuge's tenure, going by the regulator's swift move to raise the base lending rate in a bid to arrest a new round of price increases in the economy. Thuge sought to explain that an unexpected jump in non-food, non-fuel inflation, otherwise known as core inflation in May, was primarily behind the Monetary Policy Committee's decision on Monday to raise the base lending rate by 100 basis points to a 7-year high of 10.5%. An increase in core inflation is indicative of deeper price issues in the economy, and that the price rise in the primary products, that is food and fuel, is filtering through to other segments such as transport, healthcare, manufacturing, recreation and education services. That's the business news. I'm Leah Obaga.
Spice FM Business. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
No, it's 9:45. The conversation continues with the co-chair of the Bipartisan Dialogue Committee and the chairman of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the National Assembly, the Honorable George Murugara.
Well, Shua, I'm looking at this, and just as you've gone through these details, it looks as though from the very beginning, everybody was coming to this fight with their guns out of the chamber already. And they rather, bullets out of the chamber and saying, look, this is the way we are going to shoot. It really doesn't matter what you bring on the table. It seemed as though from the very beginning, there was already a decision in terms of how people would operate. It doesn't matter what side you are on. So then the question is, why go through all of this if there was already a mindset from the very beginning?
Let me start by saying when Azimio came, Azimio were actually the aggrieved party. The first step we as Kenya Kwanza took was to listen to them. Because you saw they're the ones who gave their issues first.
Yeah.
Then we also had to give our issues. And eventually they were saying some of the issues you guys are giving are an afterthought. We said that's an afterthought. Maybe we didn't even have the issues in the first place until you had the problems which took you to the streets. So when we went there, we had no guns ourselves. We had no bullets. We just carried green twigs of peace. To listen to these people, we hear what it is they have to tell us. But when we went to the table, it's when we discovered that possibly their expectations were more than what we thought. Because when they started telling us to bend the law, then we were worried exactly what we were heading to. Because we weren't prepared to bend the law. We were prepared to work within the parameters of the law, and where we felt the law was being unfair, we would actually have proposals for amendments. So maybe on their side, their guns were blazing and they were really going to shoot anyway. That's why every time anything came up, it is, we are moving out of these talks back to the streets. So there we are. Now we are threatened with several things that are going to happen to us now that the talks are seen to be collapsing. But we just leave it as that. Those are threats that are being issued, and the government is going to deal with that. Yes.
Okay. Earlier on, I asked a question about now this one statement that has been made by Azimio, and you said, well, look, until we hear from the official channels, that is neither here nor there. What does that mean? That the committee will continue with its work? Who will you be discussing with?
Yeah, the committee.
What issues will you then be debating if they're not going to come?
The committee cannot continue with its work without the other side.
Sure.
And therefore, we will have to wait because there are specific clauses in the framework agreement that provide this is what to be done, this is what to be done. Dissolution has to be by mutual consent or one party pulling out after giving the requisite notices, etc. We believe Honorable Tiende Amolo is going to follow what he agreed upon and is going to do what is supposed to be done if they are to pull out. But in my view, they pull out, then it means that's the end of the talks. We are back to what we have, a constitution and the law in place, which I assure you and guarantee you it will be followed to the letter, both by the executive and by parliament, because this is a country of rule of law. We have our constitution, we have our acts of parliament and regulations, which we have to follow at all times. Yeah.
So what will you do in 7 days if they don't come?
If they do not come in 7 days, we just commit. We may say we continue the suspension. In the meantime, the law continues to work. And you see the selection panel beginning to do its work.
So what will you do as co-chair? Will you write to the selection panel?
There are two things I can do because I have to discuss with my colleagues, the other 6 members. We can also give notices on a dissolution. That's available to us, as it is also available to them. Or we can leave the talks suspended, because that is the present position we have. Okay. The status quo today is that Azimio called for suspension, and that suspension is in force. We can continue with it, but there are no interim orders, as we say in court, to stop anyone from doing anything. There are no interim orders from anyone, barring the selection panel from going on with its work. There are no interim orders stopping the government from going on with the measures it's putting in place to address some of the issues that we raised.
What was the content in detail of your letter to the selection panel requesting them to suspend work? Had you said we request you
to consider
to consider
suspending?
Was it for 2 weeks, for a month?
No, for about a month.
About a month?
About a month. We had decided from 21 to 30 days.
When do
period of that.
When do those 30 days?
They've already lapsed.
All right.
Because that was the beginning of June.
And when they wrote back to you and said, yes, we have read your letter and we shall consider, what did they say?
Who is this?
The selection panel.
We didn't write to the selection panel.
Who did you write
Who did you write to?
I made a draft proposal to Otiende Amolo because the letter had to be co-signed.
And he did not sign?
He did not sign. Instead of sending me, and I made a draft. Okay. It's when he sent me final letters.
Okay.
With many copies to sign, I still have them.
Did the selection panel write to you?
No, they wouldn't have written to us because they were not moved by anyone.
Because you hadn't been moved.
They were not moved by anyone.
So why did the selection panel pause doing its work?
No, even before we made the proposal, it had paused.
Why?
I may consider it to have been when the talks were put into place and Kimani Ichung'wah read a statement in Parliament when he actually had a draft motion. He actually said in Parliament, in the meantime, the selection panel will hold on its work.
Okay.
I think that may have moved them. And to me, even if I was in that selection panel, I too would have actually halted.
Do you know for how long they've halted?
It must have been, we were constituted in, I think, April. And since April, they've not done anything because we sat throughout May when they were doing nothing. And when we came up with a proposal to give us 30 days, it was towards end of May, beginning of June, which means they've done it for about 30 days. An extension of the period they had previously when they had not done anything. And this is exactly what we are calling
What does the Election Act say? When a selection panel is constituted, how long does it have?
I may not be. I don't have the Elections Act with me.
Are there timelines?
So I cannot answer that offered. It's good to look at the law so that we read it together. If there are timelines, those timelines can possibly be extended.
Okay.
Or number one. Number two, they can be extended by Parliament.
Right.
They can be extended by the courts. So if there are timelines, I think the timelines may be between when they complete the interview and when they send their nominees to the president.
Does the selection panel have prerogative in law to determine when they will begin working? And I'm asking this now outside of what's happening, politically.
Yeah.
Can we constitute a selection panel and they sit and decide, we are going to advertise for these jobs next year?
We will have to look at the law to see how they are governed. If there is no law, there are no regulations that bar them from doing it, they can exercise their discretion. But the exercise of discretion must be reasonable. It must be in tandem with any law that is going to be read as being attached to what they are doing.
And outside of that, outside of the law, outside of regulations, if the selection panel has halted its work without any backing of the law and regulations, we can actually take them to court and say they are abrogating their duty.
I've used the word reasonable.
Yeah,
reasonable
we can argue reasonability.
Reasonable means you explain yourself.
The reasons as
which
to
they
why
haven't.
there's
why we've done it, which they can actually do very easily.
But which they haven't when they are starting.
They have not. And it's only if it is challenged where they shall be called upon to explain the reasons why they could have done it. The statement in Parliament and the setting up of the bipartisan talks committee.
None of which was communicated to them officially.
Oh, everybody. It's called local notoriety. It's a matter of local notoriety. Everybody knows about it. You have taken to have notice of it. All right? Because you're supposed to be in Kenya. From you talk.
Mheshimiwa, I hear, I like that term very
local notoriety.
Notoriety is on.
You know it.
You cannot.
It's in the public domain. It's an obviously.
Nobody told you the president of Kenya is who, and you're Kenyan.
Many forums such as the one that you're co-chair of, and the mandate they have, are clear. It's written down and we understand. But what makes such forums work is never the forum that we are told they're meeting today. It's the backroom discussions that people have and agree upon before you actually come and sit.
Correct.
Are we saying we have exhausted every avenue possible outside the meeting room to say, folks, okay, forget we hear what you're saying, but what do you actually want that is within reasonable means so that we can see that when we come to discuss, we've actually agreed on some of those things. So this back and forth that we keep providing the public with ceases.
It is not the best. I got to confess that we have not exhausted that. And I'm planning to meet Honorable Tiendo Amolo tomorrow. The two of us will have a tete-a-tete so that we can agree or disagree on how we are proceeding. If they are giving the notices, fine. If they are not giving the notices, are they likely to resume? They also have a say. They must be saying something because they know the consequences. I'm sorry. I said yesterday, we are not giving anybody a threat. We are not blackmailing anyone. But you know what the consequences are. If you do not tell us what the problem is with the selection panel, we will assume that you've dropped your complaints and it will go on to do its work. If there are any challenges to be done, we have our judiciary. It will sort that out when the time comes.
But if you do not control, if you cannot order the selection panel, the statements that you're making are sounding like, if you guys don't come back, we'll tell them to start working. You cannot tell them.
That's not what we're saying we are going to do.
No, we're saying
but we are going to say sorry.
No notoriety.
No.
Yes. This is more fait accompli.
What we are saying is this.
Yes.
They cannot be suspended forever. And we are not going to write to them to tell them to continue. But they are also reading the papers. They listened to the speeches yesterday. They listened to what we are saying. And they'll spring up and do their work. We are not going to tell them. But there has to be a consequence of what we are doing. Absolutely. It has to be a consequence.
You know, the reason why I approach this matter from the angle I have, there are very few discussions that are bear the weight that this one has that are actually achieved in plenary. An understanding has to be arrived at before you get there. Okay? Now, wewe ni mheshimiwa. You know full well, and you are a senior, that when somebody says this, they mean this. So let's forget what people have been saying. Let's go to the meaning. Okay? Is it possible to exhaust the meanings so that there's an understanding? Let me give an example of what I mean. The president said that they want to tweak the law so that we can have an opposition position by law. Okay, that's my layman's way of putting it. Do you think, for instance, if this was created, because that would mean an office, it would mean all sorts of things, do you think that it would make this conversation better, different? What am I asking? Why have I given that example? There are very many discussions you bring into a situation such as this one, not only to demonstrate goodwill, but to also make it palatable and possible for the things which haven't been said but are meant.
That is one reason why we had the creation of the Office of the Official Opposition Leader as one of the issues from the Kenya Kwanza side. We also felt there may have been a little bit of unfairness in terms of winner take it all, that the person who actually came number 2 and the margin was not that big is not recognized in law. We felt that why don't we create, even if it's not for a person, the entity, all right? And the opposition party can nominate who is going to be their leader. It doesn't have to be the person who came number 2. But it's a recognition, while we have it in our constitution through parliament. Maybe we now think of it slightly outside parliament, in the executive side of government, so that we don't demonize the opposition. In fact, we really need the opposition in the country. These are people who keep us on our toes, just the way we also kept the other people on their toes. Yes, how we do it, we were going to talk about it. I really didn't have the framework on how to do it, but these were 14 people. We would sit down, discuss, and agree. But it's still not lost, because there is a communication to Parliament regarding it, and it has been committed to Justice and Legal Affairs. So I'm going to be picking it up with my committee so that we see how best we can move it forward and which laws we should be looking at. But I agree that we have to look at, even without going to plenary, behind the scenes, it's give and take. So, but we are not reached there. We are not reached there. We are not even done issue number 1. Issue number 1 is IBC, and this is where I'm saying
this
now.
Is where we are stuck.
We need to start from there. It's give and take.
As we conclude, Mheshimiwa, in the next 30 seconds, I just want to mention some names. Gilo Falana. the Reverend Dr. Mutava Musyimi.
Yes.
All right. Senator Kiraitu Murongi
Yes.
and James Orengo.
Yes.
They participated in such kind of conversations
Yes.
before.
Yeah.
They delivered.
Yeah.
Do you think, as George Murugara, you want to be the one who comes at the end of that line and did not deliver?
I don't think I'm the one who is going to be named first. Because those were parliamentary committees and they were doing it in the parliament. And they did it so well. Believe you me, if this was a parliamentary committee, it would be doing so well. The first handle we have with this is when it was said to become extra parliamentary. Number one. Number two, it has so many hurdles that are placed in between. Extremely. And these hurdles are demands. I don't think those who are faced with demands. What we need to do now, if we don't want to join that list, and Otiende Amola and I will possibly be the first ones to be on the other side. And that will be history, because history is always not about successes.
Okay.
Even losses in wars are part of history.
Part of history. We conclude here.
Let's move on to IBC.
Yeah.
I confirm to them Kenya Kwanza is prepared for give and take.
Okay.
All right. Let's hear what their problem is, what suggestions they have. We will also give them what our proposals are, and possibly reach a consensus.
Sawa.
The rest of the matters will follow. Thank you so much.
Asante sana. The Honorable George Murugara, Tharaka MP, Chairman of JLAC and Chairman of the Co-Chair of the Bipartisan Dialogue Committee. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation. Have a lovely one. It's 10 a.m.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Muslim leaders in Mombasa County have opposed the planned protests by Azimio. Speaking after Idul Adha prayers in Tononoka grounds, the leaders have asked